The place to be is right here with me on Thursday nights. It's Random Topic Thursdays, only on channel G-Boo 2786. Welcome to Gavin Reshaw Presents. Whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you are blessed and doing safe. We have our two special guests, Shawn James and Reverend Childress, who will be joining us very shortly. We got a lot to get into, a lot of topics from trouble over in New York between CNN and their host Chris Cuomo, helping out his brother Andrew Cuomo. Also, Biden signs the hate crimes bill for Asian Americans. Where's ours for black? Also, we have to talk about Dr. Anthony Fauci's appearance, speaking of Cuomo's, on Chris Cuomo's show on CNN, where he made a very interesting statement about vaccination. So you guys don't want to miss that. And plus, we'll talk about a host of other things. Whoever you are, wherever you are, hope you're blessed and doing safe. We'll get started in the next couple of minutes, guys. Sit tight, relax, and enjoy the show. Smash up the likes. Hit share. Hit subscribe. All right, welcome everyone to another edition of Gavin Reshaw Presents Thursday nights, random topics. And if you are with me, then this is the place to be. I have to give first and foremost a special shout out to all of you who have my new subscribers, those that have just joined, and that includes you, Rev, because I just got the notice you
Thought it was already a member. I noticed I wasn't. So
yeah, even though you've been a guest 3 or 4 times, but I thank you for that. Special shout out to Steve Mack. I gotta check and see if there are anybody who's watching on the Facebook program as well. Those that may be tuning in on Facebook. Unfortunately, when I'm looking at comments, I can't get comments on the live stream via YouTube like I see if I go on Facebook. But if you're watching via Facebook, I want to thank you all for tuning in. I want you all, I'm glad that you are here, whoever you are, wherever you are. I hope you are blessed, and doing safe. I gotta give, of course, thank you to our guests. You know these two gentlemen. Of course, the gentleman to the left of me on the screen is Reverend Childress. He is the founder of BlackGenocide.org. He has his church up in New Jersey. What's the name of your church, Rev?
a New Calvary Deliverance.
New Calvary Deliverance. Thank you for joining in. And of course, we have our brother, the author extraordinaire, creator of the John Haynes series, as well as the author of The Man Crisis, Why 70% of Black Women Are Single, and Isis, the goddess of, I'm sorry, I'm Sean, you know I butcher your books from time to time. But Isis, what was the Isis title?
I'm here. I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
No, I can't.
You just answered. Hold on. You can hear me, Reverend?
I can hear you.
Oh. Rev can hear me. Sean, you can't hear me still?
I can hear you now.
Okay. What was the book on Isis? Isis, the goddess of.
It was Isis: Revenge of the Cyber Goddess, and it's now available in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com.
All right, I'm sorry. You heard that, but he's also the author of the John Haynes series, Taking Care of Business. He's written over 75 books. Welcome, Shawn James. Sean, thank you. Sean always comes in on Thursday nights. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How has the sales been for the books this week?
They've been pretty decent. I'm trying to get the sales up even higher because the higher your sales you get, the higher up you go on the algorithm, and this makes it easier for people to find you on the search. So I'm trying to get the sales up on the books, and I also want to get more readers on buying SJS Direct books so they can see more positive images of Black people.
Most definitely. That's always a good thing. And I see Black Mama has joined us. What's up, Black Mama? She's in the comment section. She says hi to me, Shawn, and Reverend Childress, Brother Steve Mack. She said my mic was low. She can hear me now. Yeah, I raised the mic on the audio up. Gentlemen, let's get started. A lot has happened in this past week. I think a lot of people don't know about, but I want to get started, I guess, talking on some lighter, well, not light, but sad news. Of course, this past week, we lost the passing of a comedy legend in Paul Mooney. Paul Mooney died of a heart attack at the age of 79 years old. Mr. Mooney, of course, was not only an outstanding comedian as myself, I am a student of comedy. He comes from that great line of comedians back in the 70s, 60s, and 70s who were breaking ground, a la guys like Bill Cosby, Dick Gregory, Godfrey Cambridge, Richard Pryor, Flip Wilson. And it's sad to say that all of those people, with the exception of Dr. Cosby, who was wrongfully convicted, he's the last of the greats in that era. I actually met Mr. Mooney. Hold on one second. I want to show you guys something. I showed this yesterday on my live stream. I actually have Paul Mooney's Black is the New White. This was a book that his memoir, where he talks about his time in Hollywood, how he was ignored basically and passed over, mainly because he was highly controversial. He always talked about race in a way that nobody else did. And he was Richard Pryor's writer. He was also a writer on In Living Color. He created the Homie the Clown character. A lot of people don't know that. He also wrote the word association skit on SNL back in the day. If you remember SNL, that word association skit, I can't play it obviously because SNL has a copyright claim on anything you play, although SNL in truthfulness hasn't been that funny in years. I've never enjoyed it personally, but that episode is considered a hallmark, and it was only written in like 2 or 3 minutes. But I'm going to play a clip right now of Mr. Mooney. This comes from Good Morning America, where we celebrate his life. And I just want to hear if you gentlemen had any comments on it, but let's play the video right fast.
Celebrating Paul Mooney, the trailblazing comedian who worked with Richard Pryor and Dave Chappelle, using comedy to talk about social issues in a way few had done before. Chris Conley joins us with a look at his life and career. Glad to have you here, Chris. Good morning.
And good morning to you, Robin. And amid all the tributes, Dave Chappelle may have said it best. All comedians who believe they can't say anything, remember, Paul Mooney sacrificed stardom so he could say everything. So he did, and it made him a legend.
Ain't so funny when it's your mama, huh?
Never backing down and examining race, serving up unsparing assessments that hit their target.
You're black people can jump high. You gotta jump. Gotta do something when you run from the police.
Even by stand-up comic standards, Paul Mooney was uncommonly fearless and frank, essential every time he stepped in front of a mic.
I don't think we get the Chris Rocks, the Kevin Harts, the Dave Chappelles without those early days of Paul Mooney.
On Chappelle's show, he would excel as a comic soothsayer.
Why is President Bush so sure Iraq has weapons of mass destruction?
Because he has the receipt.
And star in the acclaimed series Ask a Black Dude segment.
The black man in America is the most copied man on this planet.
Shock and sadness filled social media after news of Paul Mooney's death Wednesday at the age of 79, along with deep admiration. A comedy giant, wrote Ava DuVernay. Yeah, the jokes, but more so the freedom. He spoke freely and fearlessly about feelings and experiences others found difficult to express. May he be truly free now. Yet Paul Mooney might have been most revered for his work with Richard Pryor. When Pryor hosted SNL in its first year, Mooney wrote the sketch Word Association, where a job interview erupts into a volley of racial slurs. 46 years later, still the most shocking and dangerous 3 minutes of comedy in network TV history, it stands as a tribute to the magnitude of Paul Mooney's achievement. Paul Mooney also collaborating with Richard Pryor on albums, TV specials, and concert films that helped to create Pryor's unassailable stature in comedy. He gave us a lot.
He
Guys?
truly paved the way, Chris. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks
And
for
of course, I have to say that video is played. I don't own the rights to it, but it was played with regards to the Copyright Act of 1976 being shared for news and commentary purposes only. You know how YouTube or ScrewTube tries to get a brother. So, and let me share this too. I actually met Paul Mooney and Dick Gregory back in 2012. I met them at Essence Fest. I had met Dick Gregory before, and he autographed his autobiography, Nigger. That's the actual title of it. I still have it. And Paul Mooney, I took a picture with him. I can't find it, but Paul Mooney and Dick Gregory autographed his book for me. So it means something more now that both have passed on. Reverend Childress, I'll start with you if you want to share some thoughts on the comic genius of Paul Mooney.
Well, absolutely, because I'm really become enlightened. I didn't know he had influenced so many different comedians. That first 7 comedians that you mentioned, I am well aware of, but I was less aware of Paul Mooney. And then to find out that he basically influenced him, I didn't know that he was more or less behind Richard Pryor's and the SNL skit, and I wonder if he did the one on The Exorcist. I don't know that one either. But the fact, I didn't know.
Probably did. He probably did, because Richard Pryor, my understanding was that Richard was not comfortable with white writers putting stuff in his mouth, so he brought Mooney always alone. And wrote sketches for him, and that sketch that he did on SNL, the Word Association skit, that one is probably the best skits that Saturday Night Live ever did. He actually, Chevy Chase actually, and it talks about it in the book, he wanted to do a scene with Richard Pryor, and Richard really didn't like Chevy Chase, like talking about it, but Paul was the liaison and wrote that skit in like 5 minutes. So, yeah.
Well, it's really precious what you have there. I was always a fan of Dick Gregory. He was also, as you know, a great social activist. And I don't know how you can combine the two, but he did it masterfully and wonderfully of being a comedian as well as a very strong social activist, and very much pro-life, by the way. And that's why I embraced him very much so, but didn't, to my chagrin, I didn't know of the exploits and the great influence that the brother had. Paul Mooney, I think you said his name, the last name. Yeah, I didn't. I was kind of embarrassed about it, but obviously he was behind the scenes and probably blackballed in so many ways.
You know, he very well could have been, I think, a big star, just like Dick Gregory. But because Dick Gregory still sacrificed his career for the cause of Black people. There was a time on the Tonight Show they didn't allow Blacks to sit on the stage. And Dick Gregory, they wanted him. He was the hottest comedian back in 1962. Jack Parr had actually wanted him to come. And Dick Gregory was like, no. It's like, well, why not? He says, I heard Negroes can't sit on the couch, so I'm not coming. And Jack Parr said, well, no, you could come sit on the couch. He goes on stage, he kills it, and Jack Parr invites him. And Jack Parr tells him, well, what do you drive? He said, a Lincoln, naturally. But he did that stuff. But what he did, just like with Bill Cosby, he humanized Black people. You know, that was the first time people understood that Black children were no different than white children as it came to playing outside. You know, and Paul Mooney, his real name was Paul Gladney, I believe, or Paul Ely. He actually is from Shreveport. He's from Louisiana.
All right.
Yeah, it's Shreveport. Yeah. So Paul Mooney, comedy legend. Yeah, and he was behind, you know, the book. If you get the book, it's really intriguing, the stuff that he was behind, like Homie the Clown, the Tom's Brothers on in Living Color. He wrote screenplays with Richard Pryor. He co-wrote JoJo Dancer and Call Me Claus for Whoopi Goldberg. Most people don't know this, but I'll tell you how influential he was. He was the man. He and Richard Pryor actually discovered Robin Williams, not Gary Marshall, because they had.
Oh wow, that's fascinating.
Richard Pryor had a television show in 1977 that didn't last long called The Richard Pryor Show. It was a variety show. And Marsha Warfield, Tim Reed, trying to think, Robin Williams, John Witherspoon, who played Pops in Friday, and the Wayans brothers. They all were brought in on that show. And so that was their first time being on network television. So, and Sandra Bernhardt. So he really paved the way for a lot of those cats.
Well, I plan to read more. I'm kind of somewhat embarrassed. I didn't know of his great contribution. Anytime you walk in the echelon of those persons you mentioned and had relationship with them, he obviously was a extreme talent. So I'm looking to find out more. And
I'll be honest, when I met him, I'm not trying to speak ill of the dead, but he wasn't really that open or friendly, like talking about it. But he had just gotten off stage, and I was able to take a picture with him and stuff, and he autographed it for me. So I won't say anymore because he's deceased. But may he rest in peace. Shawn, if you want to leave a comment or say anything, because you're up in New York, you remember Chappelle's show, which was shot up there. And Paul Mooney was a part of that. Why don't you talk about, you have any thoughts on him?
Well, I don't really know too much about Paul Mooney from, his career. All I know is that he had a great impact behind the scenes. And sometimes you can have a greater impact behind the scenes than in front of the camera. And when you go out here behind the scenes, you can make a way for a lot of people. And it seems like he did that for a lot of Black comedians. And he also managed to open up the doors for a lot of people out here as related to expanding people's perspectives as related to Black comedy. So he was a great man. I mean, he wasn't a star, but he was extremely great in the things that he did. And we have to appreciate the things that he has done for all of those brothers and sisters behind the scenes, because what I learned is the real power is behind the scenes and behind the camera. And sometimes decisions that are done behind the camera can have more of an impact long term. I mean, I didn't know he was behind Homie the Clown or discovered Robin Williams or had all of those impact on many of those shows like Saturday Night Live and Chappelle's show. And again, that shows how much great power is behind the camera rather than in front of it. And he had a great legacy behind the camera. And I'm sad to see that he passed, but he had a great life and he had a great impact on a whole lot of people.
Yes, he certainly did, and he'll be well missed. Another little snippet too. He actually got to go on tour with Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy had wanted him to open for his Raw tour, which he did, and that was because Eddie Murphy, as you all know, was a disciple, or I should say, a huge fan of Richard Pryor. And when he found out that he was the writer behind some of Richard Pryor's stuff, like the joke that he did, the Justice joke, where that's all we see, Jack, is just us. That one. Yeah. That's funny when white people come back from intermission and find out niggas and took the seats. You ain't sitting here now, motherfucker. That's all I remember. But we're going to talk about that a little bit, because in that snippet, in that live on Richard Pryor's live that was shot in Long Beach in 1979, he had some Chinese jokes. So Richard Pryor today would actually be in jail. Especially under this new law. So we're going to talk about that in a second. But yes, Tyree asks, Paul Mooney was the one who created Homie the Clown. Yes, he did. He said Homie the Clown was basically Paul Mooney in a clown suit. When he would bop him upside the head with the sock. Boom. Yeah, I don't think so.
Homie don't play that.
Homie don't play that. Yeah, so may he rest in peace, Paul Mooney. And certainly he had influence behind the scenes. A lot of people, if you remember they also had something called the Black Pack, just like the Brat Pack and Rat Pack that were in the 80s and 60s. Well, they had the Black Pack, and if you remember in the 80s, you had this influx of black comedy and actors that came out of Hollywood. Paul Mooney was a part of that, although you didn't know him. Because in their pictures online, I'll just put, before I move on, I'll see if I can find this one. But there's a picture with with a few individuals. And it's in the book, actually. See if I can find it. All right. I found it. Here it is. This is a picture. I don't own the rights to it. I just got to say it just so I don't get sued. But you find this online. This is the Black Pack. So that's what they call them. So that's Arsenio Hall. That's Paul Mooney, Eddie Murphy, Robert Townsend, and Keenan Ivory Wayans. And Damon Wayans' brother, Keenan's brother Damon, they were all part of that clique back in the 80s. So very influential guy.
Wow. Fascinating.
Yeah. And they say here, remember that time Pee Wee Herman became a member of the Black Pack? What the hell?
I don't remember.
No, but this is the article they got here. I'm just looking. I'm just scrolling through, and Pee Wee Herman? Well, that's Arsenio.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think he ran. I guess he was ran up with those guys. It says here, Paul Pee Wee Herman, Rubens, Valerie Galinio, that was his girlfriend at the time. He had a plaque that, so Arsenio, as a joke, they gave him a plaque to be a member of the Black Pack. So,
okay.
That so makes sense. Now it makes sense. Okay, well, yeah, I remember Pee Wee Herman, and so did everybody else in that theater. If you guys aren't from the 90s, you don't know that joke. You're not gonna know what happened. Just Google it. But we're gonna move on. Rest in peace, Paul Mooney. I gotta talk about this. We'll move on. I guess we could talk about this now. Let's. I mentioned this earlier that Biden signs the Asian COVID-19 hate crimes bill that was signed earlier this afternoon in the White House. And might I remind you, they were not wearing masks. They were actually shaking hands, high-fiving when they signed this bill. This is the COVID-19 hate crimes bill that was passed even bipartisan through Congress very quickly. This is coming from CBS News. I want to share with you guys. I'm not going to play the entire video, but I want you to look at the smile. She's like a Cheshire cat.
That looks like a Joe Biden lookalike. It may be him, but never mind.
But let's play a little bit of the clip. But I want you to pay attention. I might have to refresh it, but while I got you, now I pulled this up earlier, so the likes and dislikes may be different, but look how many likes to dislikes there are. Can y'all see that?
I can't see it, but
I'm gonna blow it up. Look how many likes to dislikes.
Oh my goodness, that's not good. Oh my goodness. Oh Lord. That's CBS's website?
This is CBS's YouTube page.
Oh my, I am stunned. That's more stunning than the bill. What you just pointed out. My goodness.
She's smiling more than Louis Armstrong after singing Jeepers Creepers. Jeepers Creepers, wait to get those peepers.
Let me start by saying to all of the leaders here, thank you. Thank you. To the members of our United States Congress on both sides of the aisle who helped pass the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act. Thank you.
Now, look what it says at the bottom, okay? President Biden signs COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act into law. And anti-AAPI discrimination legislation aims to curb violent acts against Asian Americans. I'll play some more of the video, but I'm going to play another clip right after this. I can't play all of it because we're pressed for time.
And a special
so I may fast forward
to
it.
Senator Mazie Hirono. And Congresswoman Grace Meng. For leading this incredible effort. And I know you did not do it alone. And there are many more. I could name a couple of whom I will. Among them, Senator Tammy Duckworth, Senator Richard Blumenthal, Senator Jerry Moran, Congresswoman Judy Chu.
All right, I'm tired of all of this.
Congressman Don Beyer.
We
I
went
gotta
down
fast
to
forward.
Atlanta to meet with Asian Americans and the community across Georgia. It was a raw and emotional visit we had. We heard about their pain, their fear, anger, and all.
So he's talking about what happened in Atlanta.
Feelings were
Mhm.
about those feelings that.
But a lot of that
felt
stuff that
invisible.
happened in Atlanta, from what I'm hearing, had nothing to do with Asians. That was about that was a beta male, as Shawn has even pointed out, who was upset because he couldn't get enough nookie. Supposedly, there was some. It wasn't a Asian hate crime thing. I'm not saying that those things don't exist. I'm not trying to put down people that have experienced it, but there is a way. There are things that they do that they leave out in the media, from what I understand. So let me continue playing the footage, please.
See, we heard how too many Asian Americans have been waking up each morning this past year genuinely fearing for their safety. Just opening the door and walking down the street. And safety for their loved ones. The moms and dads who, when they let their kids out the door to go to school, were worried. Attacked, blamed, scapegoated, harassed during this pandemic. Living in fear for their lives, as I said, just walking down the street. Grandparents afraid to leave their homes, even to get vaccinated, for fear of being attacked. Small business owners targeted and gunned down. Students worried about two things: COVID-19 and being bullied. Documented incidents of hate against Asian Americans has seen a shocking spike, as the vice president has outlined at the front of her comments, let alone the ones that have never been reported. Gut-wrenching attacks on some of the most vulnerable people in our nation, the elderly, low-wage workers, women, brutally attacked simply by walking outside or waiting for a bus. Asian American women suffered twice as many incidents of harassment and violence as Asian American men. And the conversation we had in Atlanta is one we're hearing all across the country, that all of this hate hides in plain sight.
All right, I can't play all of it, but I'm gonna fast forward only because of time. So I've gone through it, but you guys can go look at this. But I'm gonna skip a little bit to where he signs the bill.
To the stage, Senator Hirono, Senator Duckworth, Congresswoman Grace Meng, Congresswoman Judy Chu, Congressman Don Beyer, Senator Richard Blumenthal, and Senator Moran, but I don't think he can be here today. Actually, I should put the table down the middle of all of you and sign it down there. But thank you.
Like he could move the table. All right. They're not worried about COVID protocol at all, huh?
Not at all.
Now, I'm gonna stop this. Okay. So he signs this into law. Now, y'all see this. You see Kamala Harris. Now, let's see something else, because this is for your swollen Martins. This is for your Joy Reeds and everybody else who got mad when we talked about where's stuff for black people, what tangibles. Let's remind everybody, gentlemen, what happened on the campaign trail last year.
Well, listen, again, we had over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination, segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education. We have disparities around income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, Black people have not. And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act. Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit and uplift 60% of Black families who are in poverty.
So by default, it affects Black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit Black children, Black families, Black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this: any policy that will benefit Black people will benefit all of society.
No.
Let's be clear about that.
No.
Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No, because whatever benefits that Black family will benefit that community and society as a whole in the country. Really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No, because whatever benefits that Black family will benefit that community and society as a whole in the country. Right?
Now, how is that crime bill gonna benefit us exactly? I have had an opportunity. Tyree asked the question. He said, "So now Asians are protected like the so-called Jews and LGBT?" No, that's not actually correct. They had protections already with the Civil Rights Bill of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. When those were passed under the Johnson administration. And he specifically did it because African Americans, Black Americans, were being prohibited from voting. They were also being prohibited from public accommodations, like going to hotels. You couldn't go to a hotel in the South, even if it's privately owned. And you were driving all night, you had to drive to the nearest colored hotel or drink from separate water fountains, be put in separate bathrooms. So that bill was designed to erase all of that. And also the problems were getting it enforced, especially throughout the South and the Jim Crow South and even in the North, because racism was just as bad in the North too. A lot of people forget about that. They think because you lived out West or you lived in the North, everything was great. Nuh-uh. So what they have done, especially since the 70s, when you had an influx of immigrants that started to come in, like from Vietnam and Thailand and so forth, Black people, especially our leaders, were more supportive of those groups coming in, because we have, as Black people, as African, descendants of Africans, that human spirit, that all love, and we love everybody. We want everybody to have this and that. And I have no problem with people getting theirs, but damn it, we better get ours too. And we better get it first. And when you have a so-called black vice president, before that even a president, who refused to even acknowledge how black men have been treated unfairly in this country and do something about it. And your vice president is now president, and you sign this hate crimes bill that I'm looking at. Hell, they didn't even get the Emmett Till lynching bill passed through, although truth is it's told, that Emmett Till bill is filled with a lot of things for the LGBTQ. A lot of people don't know that. Kamala Harris is behind that. That Equality Act passed through the Congress. It hasn't passed Senate yet. I'm hoping it doesn't get through the Senate. I'm hoping it stalls, because you all, especially if you voted, you know, you voteps. I gotta say it. I'm not against voting, but damn it, we better vote smart, because you have been, you are being neglected, black people, by this administration. You are being neglected by both parties, but in particular, the party that we keep voting for time and time again. They keep doing the same old thing, but not neglect. I looked at this hate crimes bill. This is nothing more than just more law enforcement paperwork being passed to stop you. Bullying, online stuff. That's very vague. What's bullying? Calling names. Like I said, if Richard Pryor did his, you know, his joke, remember when he said, you know, them Chinese do some serious fucking, you know, if he did that today, excuse me, Reverend, but you know, I saw a Chinese man stutter. That shit was some funny shit, man. You know that. Yeah, but Richard Pryor would be locked up. Richard Pryor could not survive in 2021. Neither could Paul Mooney. Paul Mooney retired though at the right time. I'm not against people. I don't hate anybody, but I can't. Y'all saw the difference in what I said, and I had, Reverend, I tell you, I had Negroes that were upset with me because I was criticizing Kamala Harris being called this civil rights champion compared with Rosa Parks and how Rosa Parks fought for her and Ruby Bridges. I lost friends over that. And frankly, good riddance.
I can't believe that. That's an extremely ill-informed individuals. I don't understand that one at all. Kamala Harris is probably the most hypocritical sham of an individual who plays the race card as well as Sharpton and Jackson. And she can be Indian one day, she can be African American one day, she can be something else the other day. Man, I tell you, this has been, but that was great. What you pointed out, that is shocked. My head is still swirling over that. It means we have a chance. Do you understand what that means? It means the country has a chance. Either they still got the Dominion software everywhere they think, and they think they can get over, but that, what you pointed out, the likes and dislikes, is staggering.
It's gone up now.
I've never seen anything with that many, that much of a disparity on CBS, because that's the propaganda machine that they use.
It's 1,500 to 811.
Oh Lord, I bet you they're reading that and they're shaking in their boots right now.
They're trying to amp it up. It's just like what they did with that Gillette commercial.
I don't know about you said Gillette commercial. I don't know about that, but this is
the Gillette commercial where they tried to show all men as dogs and stuff like that. Shawn did videos about it.
Wow, I'm sorry I missed that one. You know, I'm leading a secluded life in these last couple of years, but this is really powerful. It means that programs like yourself and other voices are blending now and actually reaching the public to really begin to give them a perspective other than the propaganda that they're hearing. This is a blessing for me tonight to see this. But I would interject, This is my opinion. No one has to buy into it. This is all a part of the scheme of the world order to glorify. Now, don't anybody call me racist or anything. I don't want to hear that. They're basically pushing the Asian China agenda and making you very sensitive about Asian people. I went to the post office. I'm really going to sound like a bigot tonight, but I just had to say, because I sense what's behind it. I go to the post office and he said, I wanted some stamps. The only way, I wanted an odd number. They say, well, the only odd stamps we have is a Chinese poet, and I'll give you those. So you got the post office pushing these images, and it's all image. I think it was on this program you pointed out that which I didn't see, the Oscar winning that show, particularly the woman that won, basically, I think it was Best Picture or something along that line.
Best Director. You're talking about that movie Nomadland.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and once again, in Asian Chinese, I'm telling you, United States, even though that graph you just showed me, I'm really so thrilled about it, means it's not working. They are trying to push the China, the Asian, the connection with China and its ways, its mores, its surveillance, its inoculations, it's everything that they do there. We are attempting to input here, and it's for control. It is for complete control. I may not be proven out in the next weeks or so, but I'm more sure about that than anything else that's going on in government today. And this proved it today. Now, once again, Black people get beat up. Italian people get beat up. Other ethnicities get beat up. I don't know about how it is in where you live, but in the hood, they are basically doing nails, the restaurants.
We fund them. We give them money.
The Asian, right? And that's somebody really has to really investigate that. It's been going on for years. If I really had the time, I think I would invest a large portion of my time into seeing why is it that they're giving this money to open up businesses specifically targeted for the African-American neighborhoods. Now, folks, I know some sisters that can do nails, and I know some brothers that cook very well. I mean, that money, but if they go for the same money, they're not able to get it to start those businesses. So it seems to me that is racist. It also makes it appear that the indigenous African-American basically is not counted in according to the wealth of the land. So that goes all the way back to, 50 acres and a mule, 40 acres and a mule, which we weren't given. So this right now, you're in a regime right now. Everybody knows Biden is not the president, and everybody knows Kamala Harris is not the president. Okay, right now they're pushing the agenda through these puppets, and it is a world agenda, a world order where the Asian is exalted. Okay, they want us to embrace the mindset and ideals and ideology of the Asian Chinese. So what better way than to create a crisis with I just don't believe in that. Now, people that don't be upset with me. I just don't really believe that there's a reason for Asian hate.
To err on the side of caution, I think that I don't doubt that there may be some claims that are legit, but I do think
yes, absolutely.
But I do think that there are some things, like, for instance, when they blame the black man, I saw a video, I think it was on Tariq Nasheed's time stream, where this, on his Twitter thread, where this black man supposedly is attacking this Asian person, older Asian person, but his punches are missing. Like, they're not connecting at all. So it just looked like the whole thing was WWE, like it was scripted. Same thing with they were upset at the men who didn't help the Asian woman that got punched outside the building. I'm not saying as a man, yes, your emotions would get to you, you would do that, but there's also something where, especially if you work for another party, that if you are on the job and you go and harm someone else, even if you are right, you open yourself up to a lawsuit. So those security guards probably were thinking that, and I don't know if they contacted the authorities or anything like that, but that might have been a factor why they didn't go out there and do it. Now, I'm gonna let Shawn, because Shawn has been sitting quiet, let him get in on this thing for a second. But but yes, what essentially is happening too, and you got to remember this too, that director you mentioned, who directed No Man Land, Pastor, her name is actually, I have her name here. Her name is, and I'm not trying to be offensive or anything like that, but her name is Chloe Zhao. Just want to make sure I said it correct. Chloe Zhao. She is actually directing the latest Marvel Comics superhero movie called The Eternals. And this month of May, the month of May is now Asian American Pacific Islander month. So they signed this bill with that. Next month, and they're already gearing up, is Pride Month for LGBTQ. And they're going to have, I'm thinking this is my thinking, there will be an Equality Act push, or they're going to talk about it next month to try and coincide with that. Because if you remember when the Obergefell decision was made, which made gay marriage legal in the United States, symbolism means everything.
Yes.
They did it in the month of June. So I don't think that was a surprise they did it. And they got Anthony Kennedy, who was interesting. This is the same Anthony Kennedy as a judge who always defended the LGBTQ community. But when it came to the Voting Rights Act, he struck a part of that down. He was the swing vote for that. He was the swing vote for the Bush-Gore election. He was the swing vote for even the election with regards to, not the election, excuse me, but the decision that was made in regards to the Baker case, that Baker who refused to Baker.
Yes, right.
We actually agreed with the Baker, which was a surprise to me. They actually agreed with it. Yeah. And I'm going to talk about the Supreme Court in a minute because they have an abortion case that's coming up. But Shawn, I want to get your thoughts.
Well, when I think about the signing of this so-called COVID-19 anti-Asian hate crime law, let's call it what it really is, Crime Bill 2.0, because this is just another extension of Joe Biden's 1994 crime bill, and it's all about getting black people locked up. That's what this is all about. It's not about anti-Asian hate, because we know that most of these crimes are perpetrated by whites and non-blacks. If you look at the news, and what they're trying to do here is they want to make the black man, especially the black man, the face of this so-called anti-Asian violence. But we know that most of the people are white, so are they going to really charge and punish all of these whites and non-blacks for these crimes? I don't think they are. But what they're going to do is use this bill to go after black people and persecute black people. That's why your Kamala Harris had that big Kool-Aid smile, because she loves going after black people, and and they're going to go out here and use this law to go after black people. So a lot of these black folks who out here who are voted for Joker Joe, this is what you voted for, because you didn't have an agenda, you didn't have a platform, and you went out here like a bunch of NPCs thinking you had to get rid of the evil orange man, and now you've got yourself with legislation that's going completely against you and will be used against you. And that's really sad, because if it wasn't for all of those black voters out here, your Joker Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would not be in office right now. We'd be in the middle of a second Donald Trump term. But this is the slap in the face they give all of those black people out here who voted for Joe Biden. You get legislation that puts you in jail and makes it where you're called a racist or hate crime for so-called bullying. Really, these terms of this law really need to be challenged in court, because in some ways they are unconstitutional. I mean, what is bullying? I mean, what constitutes bullying? And wouldn't that be an excessive punishment under the Constitution?
Well, I wish they had anti-bullying laws when I was a kid growing up, especially if you for overweight people, for black people, for people with clefts in their chin like me, because I got bullied. I got bullied all the time based off what I looked like.
I got bullied all the time myself. I just dealt with it. The whole thing is that if we keep filing lawsuits for everything, what's going to happen is everybody's going to be in jail, because life is a hard thing. And the thing is that they're talking about anti-Asian, but I look at it and go, we had a whole COVID-19 pandemic for over a year, and then all of a sudden we get these anti-Asian fights in 2021. Why didn't we have this in 2020? I mean, where were all of these people out here to create this legislation back then? I mean, I find it funny during the Trump years, oh, nobody's talking about all this anti-Asian violence when we had the pandemic starting. But when the pandemic eases, all of a sudden we've got this anti-Asian, then we got all these attacks which look really staged and fake. I mean, a lot of these attacks look so phony. I mean, I look at them as like, one attack, you had a guy wearing a pink hoodie and a fedora. And I know, living in New York for 47 years, nobody dresses like that. And I'm looking at a lot of these attacks, and it's like they don't add up. I mean, I look at them and they don't make any logical sense. And again, it looks like all a stage.
I'm sorry, Shawn, I'm interrupting you, but I got to be careful with I'm trying to be careful with my words. There's no bullying term in here, but let me say this. And well, I want you to finish your point, Shawn. I cut you off. Go ahead and finish your point. I'm sorry.
Well, I look at it this way. It's like, this is an anti-black law, and we just need, and it's really sad is we voted for this, and this is the type of tangible you get for exchange for your vote. And sadly, this is the type of tangible black people have got because they voted straight down a ticket without critical thinking. People warned black people this was coming to them, but sadly, they didn't listen. And sadly, instead of you getting tangible resources to help you during the pandemic, you get a one-way ticket to jail from Kamala Harris, who loves destroying black people's lives with this type of legislation. So that's the sad part about everything.
Right. Well, look at it. I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish, Shawn.
No, I'm finished right here.
All right. Hold on one second. I'm going to let Brother Bernard in the building right quick. Bernard, thank you for joining us. Y'all know Brother Bernard Johnson, King BJ.
Hey, how you doing, sir?
Hey.
Doing
how
good.
you doing?
Oh, how you doing?
Yeah.
Doing okay.
That was a mouthful you lit right there. And Gavin, thank you as well.
You're welcome.
Please don't.
Uh-oh.
He's frozen, I think.
He's frozen.
Yeah.
All right, he's frozen. All right, Bernard's frozen. He's gonna try and come back. We'll try and have him come in. Hold on one second. Yeah, are you coming on?
When do you want me?
Come on, hold on a second. Excuse me, y'all. I sent you via text, okay? All right. I have another guest coming in. Even though I told him an hour ago to join. But okay, Brother Bernard is back. Or is he back? Or it looks like he's still frozen. Okay. All right, Bernard, you're back in. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm back in.
All right. Go where you got go near the Wi-Fi, man.
Hey man, something wrong with the Wi-Fi router, man, but it's all right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
All
Sorry.
right.
Now let me say this. We were talking about this, Gavin, about this this Asian anti-Asian hate bill. And Shawn, you're right. It is gonna be like, man, this is like crime bill 2.0 on steroids. But if you realize they've been showing all the hoaxes, but Mr. Biden said that they had built this nation and they've been ignored for too long. I'm like, well, okay, well, that's very hypocritical. Yes.
Wow.
He said that in his speech. And he thanked Democrats and Republicans for getting it done. He said they were scared to get vaccinated. They're scared to even walk down the street, fearing what might happen to them. And I'm like, okay. And you got the Asian bed wench in the back sitting up there clapping. And notice she identifies with Asian now. She doesn't identify with you no more. Matter of fact, she stopped identifying with you after January 20th, to be honest, because what I remember, I saw her on 100 most influential list, and the Asian community put out a letter and told her,
yeah,
you need to do more for us.
Yeah, they did. They did. That happened earlier.
Yes, they want her to do more. So how much more is more, right? You don't know what's more. How far they really gonna go with this? But what I said, look, see, they're not asking for executive orders. We gotta stop asking for executive orders. We gotta say, no, you gotta get some legislation on paper. See, this goes in the law. This can be hard to undo. And you cannot define what hate is. I mean, because I look at it like this, Gavin, Shawn, and Mr. Bernard Childress. The victim, which could be the black woman in the store, is now the perpetrator. They actually could say they attacked me because I treated them badly. See, now you got a bigger problem. That's what you don't want.
Yep, you do have a bigger problem because now the black person is going to be seen as the bad guy, and they're going to look for every reason to prosecute the black person thanks to this legislation. And this legislation, again, is anti-black legislation because we know they're not going to prosecute any white guys. I mean, we had several cases here across the country where white people have beaten up on Asians and no charges were filed. And in one case where a guy beat up an old Asian lady, they let him right out of jail with no problem, no bail, no nothing. So we know who this is targeted for, and we know what this whole thing is all about. It's just an anti-black legislation. And what's really sad is all of those Asian Trump supporters, they could get a tangible, but all the black people who voted for Biden, all they got was the shaft. Okay.
Do we still have Galvin?
Is he there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry, I was muted.
Okay, because I didn't know what. No, I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here. I was muted for a second, but yeah, this is. Look at this. It gives the power of the Attorney General to make grants to eligible entities to assist covered agencies within the jurisdiction of the eligible entity in conducting law enforcement activities or crime reduction programs to prevent, address, or otherwise respond to hate crimes, particularly as those activities or programs relate to reporting hate crimes through the Uniform Crimes Report Program, including adopting a policy on identifying, investigating, and reporting hate crimes, developing a standardized system of collecting, analyzing, and reporting the incidents of hate crime. That means evidence. Establishing a unit specialized in identifying, investigating, and reporting hate crime. That means a task force. Engaging in community relation functions related to hate crimes prevention and education, such as establishing a liaison with formal community-based organizational leaders, conducting public meetings or educational forums on the impact of hate crimes. Okay, I've had enough. This is basically Big Brother. Making himself visible. And speaking of Big Brother, well, he's not Big Brother, he's Big Daddy. Ladies and gentlemen, my father, Dr. Leon D. Richard, is here. Hi, Dad.
Hi, son. Hello, guys.
How you doing, sir?
Hello, what's going on?
Good to see you again.
All right, Dad, have you been listening? Do you have any comment on what we're talking about? Go ahead.
Well, I don't think it's necessary for the president. I didn't think it was necessary for the president to sign an anti-hate bill against Asian Americans. hate against anyone is outlawed, and nobody should have what is perceived to be a special bill to say that a crime against Asian Americans is specifically wrong. It applies to everyone. And if this country and the lawmakers would stop trying to use their influence as politicians to make everything look like this is geared towards a specific group, then the country would be better. I think it's necessary for all of us to understand that what is going on, they're trying to say that we have to protect Asian Americans. We have to protect everyone. And this country has never been on the same accord with protecting everyone, especially as Black Americans. We know that they have never tried to protect us and to make us feel special. We have had to fight for everything that we have ever gotten. And I don't think it's going to stop with just Kamala Harris and the president saying, well, we have this bill that we apply to Asian Americans, when right before your eyes, African American children and our children are being discriminated against every day because they're Black. The color of their skin less than a millimeter thick, you get discrimination because of that fact. And when you say we're going to make a special law for you because you are Asian, of Asian descent, that's telling me as an African American male and father and uncle and brother that you guys don't think I'm worth anything. Why couldn't it just be a hate crime bill? Why it had to be Asian? Can someone explain that to me? Why it had to be an anti-Asian hate crime bill? Because I don't understand why.
Because what they were doing that right now, this is the month, this is Asian American History Month, Asian AAPI. So that was part of the reason why they did it, especially doing it as the month of May is about to end. So this will go down in history that Joe Biden was the first president to actually sign legislation on behalf of Asian Americans, or one of the first to do that. We already had a Civil Rights Act that was passed for Black Americans. Lyndon Johnson said that, but what happened was in the 60s and 70s, when you had these revisions like Title IX, other groups of people, like women, like gays and lesbians and transgenders and so forth, immigrants, Arabs, Asians, religious groups, they all fell onto that Civil Rights Act. It got amended to include them. That's how you noticed in years and times have changed, especially if you go in a workplace and you see in the lunchroom, you'll see that poster that's on the pin board that indicates like workplace discrimination and that how it prevents against people of color. No one has a right to be discriminated against based off the color of their skin, their race, their national origin. Now it also says race, color, skin, national origin, gender, sexual identity, sexual orientation, all of these other things that are included. So our rights have gotten watered down since this stuff has happened. Dad, I know you're not holding up a cup that long.
Must be frozen. He's frozen.
Yeah, he's frozen. I'm gonna bring him back. I thought it was Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer at first. Okay. Yeah, Dad is back. Okay, you got frozen.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, thank you for clearing that up for me, because I always thought that we lived in a country where everyone is treated fairly, or we live by that, or at least we try to. Apparently, the politicians felt that we have to make a special circumstance for Asian Americans, and I can't see where that benefits anyone.
Well,
except Asian Americans.
Well, you know what? Black Americans really don't have anything specifically.
Something interesting.
specifically to them. Bernard, you about to say something? Hello,
I
Bernard.
believe he's frozen. He's frozen.
Oh God, y'all
Yeah,
gotta get y'all Wi-Fi straight, man.
I was thinking about something that Dr. Claude Anderson said, and he was saying that. No, I'm talking.
All right, look, try and come back because I got to move on to another topic. But when you guys aren't frozen, I don't think Dad looks like he's frozen too. Again.
Yeah, I think.
Can you hear me?
I think people have to realize that the
Can you hear me?
single most
Yeah, I can hear you.
problem that this country faces is racism. It's the cause of all that people go through. It affects our educational system, our financial system, affects every form of government, local, state, and national, federal. It affects every aspect of life. And we have to realize that we've got to sacrifice, or we have made sacrifices. We've got to fight to destroy racism wherever it is. It has to be eradicated in order for this country to equally allow its citizens to participate in all aspects of life in this country. And until those who be leaders realize that and enforce that, it's not going to ever get better. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Well, Gavin's out now. But anyway, Dr. Claude Anderson said something one time, and he said they don't do this to you just because you're black. Actually, he said because we don't fight back and we don't do anything. We just sit and complain and act and stuff. That's why I say you got to make these people put laws on paper. You know, because Asians didn't do no protesting, no marching, hardly.
Hold on, I'll be right
back. Say, let's get these.
I'll be right back. Y'all keep talking.
I'll be right. Yeah, they said let's just get these laws passed. So now it's gonna be a lot of stuff because they're gonna start censoring the internet on it for them too. See, when you say hate crime, you can't define hate crime because free speech is free speech, regardless of whether you claim to be hateful or not. I mean, I'd be more concerned about obscenity on the internet. You know, I hate to say it. I mean, shoot. I mean, OnlyFans. I'd be more concerned about obscenity than somebody saying some words or some type of language. So, I mean, to me, that's more. You can't say certain things on the web, but you can be having children in awkward positions on the web. To me, we got a big problem in society here. What do you think, Mr. Childress and Shawn?
Well, the internet it's becoming extremely dysfunctional as I see it, because if you can, again, you can't say certain things, but people can have all sorts of adult content online and they can expose children to all sorts of immoral stuff. But if you have a difference of opinion, then they want to censor you. And if you present different viewpoints, then they have an issue. That's what's so clearly backwards about today's internet. And that's why I miss the internet of the early 2000s, because I remember in the early 2000s, what people would do was just either click out or scroll down and just keep it moving. But today's people are so fragile and thin-skinned that whenever they see a difference of opinion, they practically lose it, and everything is hate speech because they hate hearing a difference of opinion and they hate hearing a different viewpoint. But I remember back in the early 2000s when you heard a difference of opinion or a different viewpoint, you just left and kept it moving. But these people, they want to try to control every aspect of people's lives, all because they want to hear their view as the only opinion. But if without diversity of thought, you can't really have any sort of discourse. And the internet was supposed to ironically be all about giving us a diverse discourse where we heard differences of opinion and different viewpoints, But the great irony is, in today's internet, we have so many of these private companies who want to deem everything hate speech because everybody's so fragile and so offended that we can't get any discourse going on at all.
You're right. That's why I
I was
like.
unmuted. You disagree with me. You are the piece of shit. You disagree with me. It's you're a hateful person. Yeah, that's the world we live in. Yeah, but that's exactly what you got. You're right, Shawn. And with social media now, it has certainly changed things. It's basically has become a lynch mob. But this is something we got to watch. I put the link to the bill. You guys need to actually read the bills, because when you read the bills, you have a better understanding of, and it's good to have attorneys that look at it. I don't practice common law, but I understand from my experience, especially what I learned from constitutional law and just reading the bills, what they were including, and automatically I knew what they were trying to do. This is going to be a crackdown essentially on every American. If you say something incorrect, something someone disagrees with, you will be under government surveillance. That's what more of this is. This is hate crimes 2.0. This is Joe Biden's MO. So you reap what you sow, ladies and gentlemen. You reap what you sow. Let's go on. I want to talk about this next topic. I got to talk about this. I want to get to this. This is the Supreme Court decides in favor of gun owners, and they will decide on the abortion ban in Mississippi. There's a ban on abortion after 15 weeks. This was coming from an article from the New York Times. The Supreme Court on Monday plunged back into the contentious debate over abortion, agreeing to hear a case that will give its newly expanded conservative majority an opportunity to pare back the constitutional right to abortion established nearly half a century ago in Roe v. Wade. The new case concerning a Mississippi law that seeks to ban most abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy, about 2 months earlier than Roe and subsequently decisions allow, is seen by both sides as potentially pivotal in establishing how aggressively the court's new 6-justice conservative majority will move to place the new constraints on abortion rights. Alarm bells are ringing loudly about the threat to reproductive rights, Nancy Northrop said. She is the president of the Center for Reproductive Rights. The Supreme Court just agreed to review an abortion ban that unquestionably violates nearly 50 years of Supreme Court precedent and is a test to case to overturn Roe v. Wade. A lot of people don't know with Roe v. Wade, there was also another case with that called Doe v. Dalton. And Doe v. Dalton was even just as groundbreaking as Roe v. Wade and controversial. But a lot of people don't speak about it because they think it was just Roe v. Wade, but it was a twin hearing. Basically, they tied because there were the same issues arising. The courts heard both issues at the same time. And Doe v. Dalton allowed a mother to abort her child for any reason, practically. If you say threat to the mother, it could have been a psychological reason. It could have been not just a physical reason, just any reason why people do it. And that is what we have today and what's going on. Now this is right up Reverend Childress's alley. I'm going to get him to speak on it in a second, but I also want to say that the Supreme Court also unanimously agreed in a 9-0 decision to uphold the rights of gun owners. That was a case I had told you about in the past, where some police officers came into a man's home, took his guns on a welfare check out of his house, and they actually agreed in a 9-0 decision. I'm trying to find that case. I had it here. I'm sorry. Okay. They also this was it here. United States Supreme Court limits police power to enter in homes without a warrant. So this was the case of, this was Edward This was Edward Caniglia's lawsuit accusing police of violating his constitutional rights. So they refused to make it easier for police to enter a home without a warrant for reasons of public health, for reasons of health or public safety. And this was what happened. So they threw out a lower court's decision to dismiss a lawsuit brought by a Rhode Island man after the officers entered his home and confiscated guns. Now, something else that they did too, the Supreme Court unanimously in the years prior agreed that unanimous jury verdict should be the law of the land. In states like Louisiana and I believe Washington, if I could be correct, you didn't have unanimous juries. And that was rooted in the Jim Crow South. They agreed that it was unconstitutional to have a ban, to not have unanimous juries, because that was done to keep blacks out of juries. But they added a caveat where they said that, well, what happens to those who have already had non-unanimous jury decisions? They've stated, well, it won't be retroactive. So those people who did not have unanimous juries, they will actually still stay in jail, barring some other issue. But it's a shame that that has happened, and this is the type of stuff that is. So they did it, but now they say, now we won't do it. So what was the purpose of it? Supreme Courts, as you all know, don't always make the best decisions. They're guarded by men. I mean, listen, the Supreme Court also said that Dred Scott was not a man. Was that just because it was the law of the land doesn't mean that it was correct. But let's get into it. I'm going to let Pastor Childress take the lead on this one since it concerns the abortion decision. Pastor Childress.
Well, the pro-life community is extremely excited globally that this case has been decided to be taken, because they perceive it basically the end of Roe versus Wade. So there's great excitement amongst pro-lifers. And the case, and some people do not know, and you pointed out correctly, it was Doe versus Bolton that basically allows abortion throughout all 9 months. This particular bill will cut it down to 15. I'll take it. Of course, personally, I believe life begins at conception. And that was decided on a woman's privacy. And so this is where they come at it. And this is where this my body, my choice mantra comes from, that particular position. Not only that, right now, we recognize that there's a case, if you did not know, coming out of Alabama. It appears that they both may be knocking at the door almost at the same time. It's called Baby Q. People don't know that Alabama people voted, about a year or so ago, 2 years ago, that there would not be abortion in the state. The Supreme Court knocked it down. Okay, if it was left up to the people, there'd be no abortion in Alabama. But now they had a case basically that challenged them. They wouldn't hear it. And so what they're going to do, they're going to circumvent, and it goes to once again, the Supreme Court. If they don't hear this one, then it can go to the Supreme Court, which would probably, in my estimation, end Roe versus Wade because of the makeup of the court, even though you never know. 61% of all African-American deaths combined, if you would combine all African-American deaths, 61% of them are abortion. Okay, if you took heart disease, if you took cancer, if you took accidents, if you took diabetes, add them all up, 61% of all African-American deaths is by abortion. It exceeds anything that any medical malady or accidents, murder. Now, having said that, that is a part of the world agenda, the New World Order, Bilderberg, deep state, whatever you want to call them. They believe in engineering, human engineering. They believe in eugenics. And so you have to understand this is a hit at their agenda. And I'm going to watch and see what the Supreme Court does. Donald J. Trump had the opportunity to put in 3, but I don't trust 2 of them. Okay, so Gorsuch. Okay, yes, the other two, even the
Kavanaugh,
last one. Yeah,
Comey. Yeah.
Kavanaugh and the Amy Coney Barrett. There's something missing there. Clarence Thomas is your best Supreme Court justice right now. Clearly. I mean, he deserves an award. We fought to get him into the African American Museum. People don't know that. We don't need credit for it. But we formed groups. We were down there. They tried to censor us. I say all that because he's fighting the regime, the world order, and he has been steadfast in it. So right now, if I was blessed, I wouldn't have mentioned it unless you brought up this subject matter. The Washington Times just printed my article on Monday. I didn't even know it. They never told me they're going to accept my editorial, but they did accept it. And I found out about it at a meeting. Somebody on Zoom showed it to me. I said I had no idea they accepted it because of the climate. And so, and the title is, "Are You Woke About Black Genocide?" More or less, and simply because it is still the best kept secret when it comes to surgical abortion or using abortions as a contraceptive. As you know, if Roe versus Wade, when it is overturned, it goes back to the states. So you have states like New Jersey, New York that are passing legislation now that would basically codify abortion, attempt to make it permanent in the state. So this is where we're at. I can't wait for them to hear it. They said they're going to hear the case. And if you take it down to 15 weeks, that's when a child is sucking their thumb. I don't think the child should die then. Okay. But we'll take it. Okay. We'll take it because that means it's going to save a multitude of lives. And lastly, not to take up too much time, people have to understand this abortion is sold to you because of the fetal tissue industry that is basically using fetal tissue in all basically their experiments. And matter of fact, all three of the vaccines have a certain degree of fetal tissue in them. And there's no way in blazes you putting that in my body. I will do whatever I can possibly for you ever to even think about vaccinating me. I'm not taking it. All right. And then to find out everything else that's in it, that's not what this program is about. I strongly suggest anyone there, do not do it.
Well, I'm actually going to mention something about vaccines in a minute. In one of the next topics, my dad is actually a pharmacist, but I want to talk about something that Fauci had stated on Chris Cuomo's show on CNN earlier. But I'm going to give everybody a chance to speak on this subject. Let's go with Bernard and then Shawn, and Dad, you can close it. Bernard,
let me say this about this thing. I'm glad. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. I'm glad that you said this because 9-0, that's a big thing. So they actually did follow their constitution, the constitution, this one. Because I think if anybody voted against it, they would have been really in some hot water. With the Roe versus Wade thing, I agree with it. But it's bad, and I hate to say this, but Childress, you're right about some. That is one of the talking points, mass depopulation. But you're right. Actually, as much as I hate to say this, Clarence might be out there. That is hard for me to say, but he the only one that stick according to every time. Everybody else wafers and waffles, he does. So if he's the deciding vote on, if he was the deciding vote on the gun thing and one to be in your favor by 9-0, you didn't need it this time. But yeah, we just have to watch these laws and how they're doing. If it's coming down to this Roe versus Wade, Clarence Thomas will be the vote to keep the bill. So he's not going to go too far off drift, but And right now, at this point in time, he's beneficial. I don't know about, 20, 30 years ago, he might have been, but right now, he probably is the best one. He is the sharpest knife in the China shop right now.
Yeah, Clarence Thomas. All right, Shawn.
Yeah, well, I look at that whole gun thing, and that was the only decision the Supreme Court could make because we have a Second Amendment, and that Second Amendment is meant to protect our right to bear arms. And the Supreme Court.
Let me just interrupt you too. It was a Fourth Amendment issue.
Yeah, it's a Fourth Amendment issue, but
because it was about unreasonable searches and seizures. So that was just as much as play. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
But it was on both of them, second and fourth. So it was the only way they could go because this is our rights ingrained in the United States Constitution. And I'm glad to see that gun rights were protected by this Supreme Court. And I'm glad to see that they actually followed the United States Constitution and interpreted the law the way a court is supposed to interpret it. Now, on this whole thing as related to these abortions, I'm not really a fan of these proposed legislation that was being debated in the Supreme Court as related to going after a child at 15 weeks. I mean, I feel that that's a law that goes way too far, and it really needs that's something that really the court really needs to step in because we've got a lot of states here, like here in New York, you can kill a baby right at birth. I mean, that's how sick and depraved Andrew Cuomo is by passing that piece of legislation. And as I see it, a lot of people want to talk about pro-life or pro-choice, but the problem is here in America, it's most of American men and American women. They sit there and debate the abortion issue, but we don't look at the whole issue of premarital sex because it's not abortion that kills children. It's premarital sex that creates children. And we have this culture here in America that really needs to be dealt with as related to the sexual miseducation we have gotten over the last 50 years, where people have sat there and thought, oh, I can have sex with just anybody who I want, but then I don't want to take any responsibility for any of the children that come out of the conception of it. Because if you don't have sex, you don't have children. And nobody wants to talk about that part. They'll debate the abortion issue, but we don't really want to talk about educating and preparing both boys and girls to keep it in their pants and make that choice so that you don't wind up having to deal with an unwanted pregnancy. Because as I see it, if you're not ready to be a man and a woman together in a marriage and start and build a family, then you're not ready for any sort of sexual activity at all.
Shawn needs to be on the PTA boards because what he just said is the problem is basically enforced. When I say it's advocated in the schools, promiscuity in the literature, even in their teachings. If you did not know, as of June 2nd of this month, of next month, in the state of New Jersey, is mandated that the schools teach the 8th grade and up anal sex, oral sex, all sorts, any way that they deem that sex is performed as viable and acceptable, and basically is to be taught. Okay, so they're going to teach them how to have safe sex. The homosexual sex is not safe. There's no way, no form of fashion, and any doctor, you got one right there, he knows we are not designed for it.
It's designed to go up your butt.
Exactly. So wait a minute. They're going to tell your 8th grader this, starting in New Jersey in June. They're going to tell your 8th grader, well, since you're going to do this anyway, do this, and they're not going to give them the physiological damage. They're not going to give them the medical damage. They're not going to tell them how this is accelerating their receptiveness to disease and virus. It's unreal. So you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Billy Porter came out HIV positive. HIV positive and so forth, and they're promoting him, especially for this new Proud Family cartoon. He and Zachary Quinto are going to play husband, and I guess he's the wife. But what's interesting about it, let me just see. I talked about it last week. I don't want to spend much time. Yes, I know I look like my dad. Thank you. I should charge y'all. I should be a billionaire for every time you all say that. I would be as rich as Jeff Bezos by now. But let me show you this picture, Pastor Childress. Have you seen this?
Oh, brother, you're gonna make me upset now. I know. You're just gonna ruin my evening.
Hold on.
No, I don't see it. I don't see it.
No, have you seen it?
Well, I don't see the picture right now.
I don't have it up, but I'm saying, have you seen it before? You've heard of it?
Possibly. I see, people run a lot of stuff by me.
This is, okay, Zachary Quinto played Spock in the new Star Trek series. He's openly gay. And
No, I didn't see it.
Billy Porter enough said. This is the new Proud family. This is the cast member. This is the new cast. This is the Proud family. It's called Louder and Prouder. E.J. Johnson is playing one of the characters too. He's openly gay. He's playing a gender non-conforming male. Well, they don't even say male. They just say non-conforming, non-binary. I have no idea what. I guess that means they don't think that they're a boy or girl. But this person here, that's Billy Porter. That's Zachary Quinto. Now, notice in the picture, who is the dominant one? If you saw Tariq Nasheed's Buck Breaking documentary, that is a must-see. There's a reason why Billy Porter, I'm being honest with you, why he's getting all of these roles. There's a reason why a lot of these brothers that put on dresses and wigs, they're getting new TV deals. Dave Chappelle talked about it. Cat Williams has talked about it. I just watched the show, and I know I said I was going to ban Netflix, but I saw some stuff called The Upshaws that Wanda Sykes created. And in that series, just watching it, Mike Epps is in it and Kim Fields is in it. But they got, and Harvey Superboy, shout out to Harvey. He talked about it, did a review of it. But in that series, essentially, all of the black males, something is wrong with them, dysfunctionally. The women are the ones that have the most sense, really the daughters. And there's I don't want to give it away, but the son, Mike Epps' character, he's the dad. He has 4 children. One of whom is the eldest child that he had as a teenager with Kim Fields is gay. He's not openly gay. He's in the closet. Okay. And the other kids, they're young. He had one kid with what they call a baby mama, and 2 other children with the same wife, 2 girls. So there's just something that's going on. Damn, Punky Brewster, Sherry Johnson, her character is gay.
This is a broad brush, and I can prove it by asking this question: who's the strongest African American male father figure you have on TV?
Bill Cosby.
All right, and you had to go back. You had to go back there. No, I'm just saying he was, but even there, Felicia really ran the show. Okay, in the house, she kind of made those decisions. Okay. But I'm just saying, there's no father knows best. There's no my 3 sons. There's nothing along that nature where he was the go-to man to make the decision to keep the family together. There is no depiction of that.
Well, James Evans,
Donald Reed, and all. Go ahead.
I can say James Evans from Good Times. There was Uncle Phil from The Fresh Prince. There was, you could say Carl Winslow, you may make an argument for that, but when I think of black fathers, Cosby was there, certainly. Sure. A lot of people didn't think Cosby was a representative of a black family, but all of us don't live in the projects.
Every movie today, the heroine is a person who is exalted. Okay. They're very, right. She's gonna save the day. I have nothing against women, needless to say, but I'm looking for strong male role models that our family, that's what God started with. You can't not circumvent God's wisdom. And we need that back in our homes, and unquestionably, and that's where we should work at, instead of redefining trying to create blended families and all these other things. Will Smith and Jada Pinkett, you know, trying to depict that this is how we do it. So this is the way you should do it. The devil's a liar. Okay. We have to get back to Genesis or we won't have a community. We won't have it. You know, a young man and a young lady have to be affirmed by their father. Both of them do. Right. Or else there's going to be issues. Okay. And they should see him. The best gift you can give to your wife, to your children, is to love your wife. Same thing with the wife. That's the best gift you can give to your children. And that's what God intended. Okay. And
the man is supposed to be the head of the household. He leads the family.
He leads, but he covers, he loves, he sacrifices. The family has no issues with his leadership. It's not about him. See, his leadership doesn't make it about him. He makes it about them. Yeah. But he leads. He leads. And that's where we got to go here now.
Right. And let me say this. There is a reason why, again, and I go hard and I'm relating it back to the Paul Mooney thing. And I never asked you, Pastor Childress, what your thoughts are on what happened with, I may have, but what happened with Bill Cosby. Because at the time he was, all of his stuff started, he was in the process of starting a new television series where he was going to play a grandfather. He and Diane Carroll were going to do a new series for NBC when all this stuff had started. I personally and several others, Shawn has commented on it, but people have done research, and especially me, and I believe for a fact that a lot of his stuff he was set up, or at least what happened was he didn't get a fair trial at his hearing. The district attorney ran a Willie Horton style campaign. There were actually television ads where he said, "You put me in office, I'm going to see Bill Cosby goes to jail." He actually did that stuff. And I see that now, and relating it to Paul Mooney and his death, as I was talking about earlier, there are no other Black comedians that are pioneering left. He is the last one standing, literally the last man standing. And, I think he was treated unfairly. And even some of the justices have said that.
You can watch every episode of Bill Cosby and still be a Christian. You can watch every episode of Bill Cosby and not detect the homosexual agenda. So he had to go. Mm-hmm. He had to go. And see, either you come all the way and then Bill's got to say, so I better come all the way in with hopefully the values people will protect me. He could not be in the middle, and he stayed in the middle. And brother, these people are ruthless. And well, then you got to pay the price. I just, like you said, how it was done, what he represented. He was coming up against those who are trying to change the definition of the family. Remember, just before all that happened, how strong he was on values and stuff. Oh, they said, oh no, not you, because needless to say, he was probably the most recognized Black male. Was Ali still alive? I don't know. And that was another person.
Right, Michael Jackson. I mean, the only person in the 80s. Hey,
listen, I'm a Christian, but Ali was good for Black people.
He was Black first.
It was just the way he carried himself as a man. No, I didn't agree with him ideologically, and I think he made some mistakes in his marriage, but that other thing was not coming in. And maybe Dick Cavett, he backed Dick Cavett off of him one day when he said to him that, I know some stuff about you. Dick Cavett completely, which I found out later, I didn't know what he was talking about. I saw the interview. I didn't know.
My dad says he knows what it was, but
okay,
well, Dick Cavett was gay.
Yeah. And so that's my type of man. That's what I want. That's what I want my grandchildren to see.
Dick Cavett didn't want that put out.
Well, no, not the 70s because it would have hurt his money.
Yeah, well, but it was against the stream. It was against.
Well, but he was being disrespected. He was trying to take Ali in a way that would have diminished him.
Right.
And you're not going to do that.
To
Muhammad Ali, and he just shot right back at him. Let him know you better back it up and take this conversation in another direction.
Right.
That was great.
Well, Ali, he was a man's man. If you came at him, he would talk. I had people that met Ali. My aunt met him. He was a people's person. That's why when he went into Africa and Zaire and fought against Foreman, after he won, most people don't know this, but he went into a leprechaun. After winning the title, he didn't have a big elaborate party with women around him. He went into a leper colony and hung with those people. And his colleagues that were with him were nervous because they thought they would catch it. He said, "No, we're going to be fine. God's with us. These are God's people." And he went there and, he hugged them. He thanked them for their support. So he's somebody, again, that's well missed. But, other than Michael Jackson and Muhammad Ali was the most recognized man on earth. I actually had his T-shirt after he died. I was in Dallas. I was in the mall, and this mall in this part of Dillard's, they had a lot of Saudi Arabians in there working behind the counter. So as I'm walking through there, literally they're stopping me, looking at me, smiling when they see the shirt. It was a shirt I have of Ali standing over Sonny Liston, that famous photograph. And they say, "Ali, brother Ali, yes, Ali, Ali." He and Malcolm X are the only men from America that are on the Saudi Arabian stamp. So that's the impact that those men had. Yesterday, and happy belated birthday, brother Malcolm. We love you. Your birthday was yesterday. And I found it interesting. Paul Mooney transitions on Malcolm X's birthday. So two legends gone. But yeah, you're right. Bill Cosby had to go, and certainly I think if he certainly would have acquired NBC, he was.
I'm sorry, that was the one that was bigger than the other thing. I'm saying you're right. Good point.
Well, remember, just like when Michael bought the Beatles catalog, they didn't like that at all. But when Cosby in 1992 and 1993, I listened to. I don't know if you saw this, Shawn, but Raj from What's Happening and I'll get to it late. May not get to it tonight, but I'm going to do it probably on Sunday. I was just disgusted with his interview with the brothers from Hip Hop News, where he's talking about Bill Cosby and how he was just arrogant with them, but trying to say, well, he made a pass at a woman I knew. That doesn't prove rape. What that got to do with rape? Okay, he's a poon hound. What's the difference between him and Frank Sinatra or John F. Kennedy? They all had mistresses, but you harping on something because he didn't talk to you. So what?
Right.
That doesn't. Paul Mooney was rude. I thought, again, and I'm letting Paul Mooney rest in peace, but Paul Mooney wasn't the most approachable person when I met him. But when all of that stuff was starting a couple of years ago, where they tried to say some rumors about Mr. Mooney, I didn't even believe that. I wouldn't harp on something just because when Richard Pryor's bodyguard was saying stuff, I didn't believe that. And I would be wrong if I accused somebody of something just because I don't like them personally. If Roland Martin got accused of stealing all the hamburgers in the world, I may believe it, but that doesn't mean I know it's a fact, and I wouldn't treat it. Welcome to TV. Yeah. So we don't do stuff like that, and we got to be on code with it. But Dad, did you have a final comment? Because we got to move on.
I just wanted to say that in regards to gun rights and gun owners, I'm 100% for gun ownership and for whatever amendment that is that gives us the right to bear arms.
It's the Second Amendment.
Second Amendment. I don't think anybody has the right to come into my house and take my firearm. I do believe that guns don't kill, people kill, and that gun owners have to be careful. They have to protect their children and their people that come into their homes, not make guns readily accessible, and certainly teach their kids to stay out of the gun cabinet or wherever you keep your guns. In regards to abortion, frankly put, I think abortion is an abomination. It is not something that is sanctioned. I don't believe in homosexuality. There is no way possible you can give a Caitlyn Jenner all the makeup you want. He's still going to be a man. As long as he got XY chromosomes, he can't change that, regardless of what he does. And I don't believe that homosexuality should be forced down my mouth in any way.
Shawn,
shape,
move
or
your
form.
camera down a little bit so we can see you.
I don't believe that
there you go.
We as parents, we should defend our kids against those who would have them put on the market and auctioned away. As far as exposing them to homosexuality and saying you approve it, there is no way in this earth that I can back, because I have to answer to a God that created and died for me in Jesus Christ, and I do not want to have to face the throne of grace and have God ask me, why didn't you object to this when you had an opportunity? Why didn't you help so and so when he was in trouble? Why didn't you vote against abortion rights? Life begins at conception.
Amen.
You cannot, and life does not change when it's in the womb. And outside of the womb, life will survive, will move on. People say, well, a fetus is not a human being. What makes it not a human being? A human being is developed from a fetus in the woman's womb. So the whole process is wrong if you take abortions. I mean, I've witnessed abortions. I've seen abortions, and it's not.
So have I.
Believe me, if you were to take the average person, a young teenage girl, a 16, 17-year-old, and said, "This is how you abort. How we abort a fetus. We chop him up with a sharp object, and the fetus does feel."
Yes.
Does feel. Or we take a hypertonic saline solution and inject it into the womb. That hypertonic loaded saline destroys tissue and burns.
Right.
So you can't tell me a fetus doesn't feel. You can't tell me it's insensitive. We're not hurting it. That is not the case. It is a living human being. It is at a stage in its development that it has not been born yet because its organs have not been developed, but it is a human being. And people say, well, it won't survive outside the womb at 15 weeks. Come on, man. They have babies that are born prematurely every day.
That's right.
I have a great nephew. That kid was born 1 pound or something. He's still in the NIC unit, the neonatal intensive care unit. And I pray for him just about every night to ask that God take Nathan and keep him, because his mother and father, they love him. We love him. And we want to see him. He's been fighting for the last 6-7 weeks outside of the womb, being born 1 pound, 6 ounces.
Wow.
So you can't tell me that there isn't a God involved with everything. And I, for one, do not want to ever have to answer a question to God, because I don't have the right answer and I can't lie. So as far as abortion, I'm totally 100% against abortion. When you decide you want to become a parent, there's a part of your rights that you give up. And your rights are encompassed and revolve around that human being you have made.
Amen. That's right.
Now, I have seen, let me just say this on that note. When I was in school, I saw a movie called The Silent Scream. A guy by the name of Dr. Bernard Nathanson, who was Jewish. He was actually with NARAL, and he actually performed abortions, I believe, even on his own children, if I'm not mistaken. And one day he decided to record it inside the womb when they had the cameras available. And when he saw it and saw the baby scream or even reach out to grab the prod, he had a shock of conscience about what he was doing. And he tried for years. He was remorseful for what he did, and tried for years to stop the abortion industry, something that he was a part of. And he even admitted that they lied and doctored numbers to make it appeal to the lawmakers. So,
and Reverend, I may be stretching the point, but I believe that there are certain levels of hell. If you read, I think it's in the book of Enoch, there are certain chambers that everyone goes to for their sins. And when you get to the ones that are deep down in the bowels of hell, when you get to abortions and lust and greed, those the 7 sins or whatever sins, that many sins there are. Look, man, you're talking about spending an eternity for allowing or committing abortion, for passing laws to make it legal for a woman to have abortion. The only abortion I find is legal is a therapeutic abortion. And that's the case where you're going to have the mother, she has other kids, and this mother is going to go through this pregnancy, and it causes her to die. I don't think that it's right to destroy the mother, knowing that this baby is causing this mother harm or will cause it, to allow that pregnancy to continue. But that's just something that I have to deal with. But abortion is an abomination, and it is the most inhumane thing that you could ever do, second to slavery. And that's another topic that I am vehemently opposed to.
I want to just the 2 minutes. I agree so hardly, but anyone listening, that shows you the power of the cross. Yes. There is forgiveness. He says, I will remember your sin no more. Satan may remind you of it from time to time. Yeah. But when you ask God for forgiveness, he wipes your slate clean, and he remembers. He does not remember that sin. And people for years go that God's holding that against them, and they have repented. They're trying to do right. They're trying to get past it, but it's torment. But this is why we have to understand the scriptures where he says, if you confess your sin, he is faithful and just to forgive you of your sin and cleanse you from all unrighteousness. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful things in the universe, and you have it through Jesus Christ. So if you're listening and you're a partaker in it, and you made an error, you made a mistake, you didn't realize it was more than, you found out later it was more than a blob. You didn't think it was human. That's what they tell you. And you listen to the schemes of Planned Parenthood. There is forgiveness, but ask. That's all I'm going to say.
Amen.
Yes, amen.
Saint, Our Lady of Perpetual Help, pray for us. I want to share, I've told you all I grew up as a Catholic. I was raised by my mother and father, in that faith. One of the apparitions, and I told you about this too previously, Shawn and Reverend Childress, but I got to move on to the next topic. But just clearly, if you guys Google the errors of Russia, when the Blessed Mother appeared to the 3 children in Fatima, if you've heard of Our Lady of Fatima, she said Russia would spread her errors throughout the world. Russia was the first nation in history to conduct on-demand abortion. So, and that prediction was made in 1917. So a lot of people may not know that. Just history. Andrew Cuomo has more 9 lives than a black cat. This is coming from CNN. Says it was inappropriate, and I got this from CNN itself. It was inappropriate for Chris Cuomo to participate in strategy sessions advising his brother on sexual harassment allegations. Let's play the video right fast.
As a legend leaves, the late-night landscape changes. What we have is an explosion of late-night television. Witness the birth of a new generation of late-night hosts.
This is the guy. They love him.
The story of late night.
I want to
Snooze fest.
The recent allegations that have been made against me.
I won't play all of it, guys.
The Attorney General is doing an independent review, and I will fully cooperate with that review. Now, the lawyers say I shouldn't say anything when you have a pending review until that review is over. I understand that. I'm a lawyer too. But I want New Yorkers to hear from me directly on this.
Listen closely, Shawn. He wants to hear from you.
Support a woman's right to come forward. And I think it should be encouraged in every way. I now understand that I acted in a way that made people feel uncomfortable. It was unintentional, and I truly and deeply apologize for it.
Are you saying he did it?
I feel awful about it, and frankly, I am embarrassed by it.
So
And that's not
he did
easy to say, but that's the truth.
I don't know.
But this is what I want you to know,
He didn't say
and I
he
want
did
you
it,
to
but
know
he
this from
realizes
me
he did
directly.
stuff, I guess, that could have made him.
I never touched anyone.
Lost the volume.
At the time that I was making anyone feel uncomfortable. I never knew at the time I was making anyone feel uncomfortable. And I certainly never, ever meant to offend anyone or hurt anyone or cause anyone any pain.
It's the governor of New York.
That is the last thing I would ever want to do. I ask the people of this state to wait for the facts from the Attorney General's report before forming an opinion. Get the facts, please, before forming an opinion. And the Attorney General is doing that review. I will fully cooperate with it, and then you will have the facts. And make a decision when you know the facts. I also want you to know that I have learned from what has been an incredibly difficult situation for me as well as other people. And I've learned an important lesson. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for whatever pain I caused anyone. I never intended it. And I will be the better for this experience.
Okay. So that was.
He did it.
All right. Thank you, Dad. That was my dad. He said he did it. I
agree.
Well, let me say this too. Men have to be careful, especially in situations, and this does happen where if you touch somebody, even on the shoulder, if you touch somebody, hug someone, anything of that nature, anything like that can be construed as harassment. So that does happen. I can't answer to, even if I don't like Cuomo, as to his guilt or innocence, but I didn't hear an apology really. He didn't admit it, but he's saying I did stuff that may have made you think I did. I don't know. I guess that's kind of how he's Vulcan 205 says he's sorry he got caught. Cuomo must be talking alternative acts. Yeah. So, but that's neither here nor there. What's interesting is that Chris Cuomo advised his brother on how to respond to sexual harassment allegations, a breach of traditional journalistic ethics that the network described as inappropriate. The Washington Post, which broke the news Thursday afternoon, reported that Cuomo encouraged his brother against resigning during strategy sessions with the governor's communications team and lawyers. They also stated that several prominent lawmakers have encouraged the governor to resign in light of the multiple allegations, but Cuomo apologized in early March for making anyone feel uncomfortable, but maintains he never touched anyone inappropriately. A CNN spokesperson said that Cuomo's participation in strategy sessions was improper, but they also said he won't face any disciplinary action. Shawn, you've been involved in this essentially in New York. I know how you feel about the governor, but in particular, you're more upset at the fact that Cuomo got in trouble with regards to the scandals about the nursing homes during the COVID situation. And he was not, people were more upset over sexual assault or harassment allegations than they were him involved in the deaths of dozens of people in New York, elderly people.
With thousands of people.
Yeah.
And it was just I was absolutely disgusted. And the more and more we learn about this Cuomo administration, the more we see how more corrupt it was than people allege the Trump presidency was. I mean, this whole Cuomo administration is looking like it's just one of the most corrupt politicians I've ever seen in my 47 years of living here in New York. And when I look at this whole situation with Chris Cuomo, he should be fired from CNN because that's a complete compromise of his journalistic integrity right there, because you're clearly showing bias towards a story that you're reporting on, and no journalist is supposed to go out here and be advising people you're reporting on. That really taints any story that you're a part of, and it really is a complete violation of ethics overall. I mean, this right here is a ground for termination for a reporter. I mean, this is a violation of public trust right here, and it just again shows how deep the corruption is. But what's really sad is we've got a group of NPC New Yorkers who still let this man stay in office, and that's the sickest thing about New Yorkers. I mean, this man has literally let COVID patients into hospitals where they're not hospitals, nursing homes where the elderly and the disabled were, and cost thousands of people their lives. Yet he refuses to resign. And what's really sad is most New Yorkers aren't demanding that he go, and most New Yorkers are just sitting there letting this guy run off the clock. And it's like one of the YouTubers said, it's like this is like psychotic behavior, because every time this man is alleged to have done something wrong, he does not take any sort of accountability, any sort of responsibility. And here's the man who's supposed to be leading the state. And what was really troubling to me was, as this pandemic was going on and he was letting elderly people die in nursing homes of COVID, he was sitting there writing a book talking about how great he is. And that, again, shows me how sick and depraved this man truly is. I mean, this is psychotic behavior if I ever saw any. And he sits there and talked about how evil Donald Trump is, but we don't want to look at the evil on the left. And that's the most troubling thing about this whole case is nobody wants to look at these guys on the left who are doing incredibly evil and reprehensible things. No, everybody wants to gloss over that stuff with guys like this, and everybody's supposed to look at the evil orange man. But if we truly care about our country and care about our Constitution, we have to get guys like this out, because they are a danger to our society. And again, if we don't hold Andrew Cuomo accountable for his crimes, then we can't sit here and talk about that mob that stormed the Capitol building on January 6th, because this man's policies were just as dangerous as that mob on January 6th, and just as much a threat to American freedom as that mob on January 6th. And this man sits there and makes excuse after excuse after excuse for all of the evil, and I say criminal things he has done, and he's looking for a way out instead of just resigning and leaving the job, because he and his brother are a complete disgrace to this United States. Andrew Cuomo is a disgrace to the United States as a state, as violating the public trust. And Chris Cuomo violated our freedom of the press with his unethical consultation. I mean, here's a man who knows what the press is and how important it is, and he compromised that. And the sad part is, because your CNN is a propaganda network, Chris Cuomo will still have a job, showing us all that we cannot trust CNN as a media platform as related to journalism.
You think? Absolutely.
Bernard, you go ahead, and then Rev about Chris Cuomo.
Let me say something about Cuomo. Cuomo is part of like an Italian mobster, man. I mean, the stuff that they got going on out there in New York. I mean, only a mobster can get away with the stuff he's doing. But I mean, somebody said Letitia James' charges against the Trump administration was supposed to be covered for Cuomo. You see, Letitia James a couple years ago, and Shawn, you're in New York and you know this, she had made what, an Asian hotline to report Asian crimes, and then Asian hate crime. Then she had to back down a little bit. Remember that hotline?
Yeah.
But Sister James isn't going to do anything. She's just going to stall. If they wanted to get Cuomo, they already could have. They're going to deflect. That's all they're doing. And Cuomo he might not run again for office, but he done made enough money out of the book he doesn't need.
Because I find it interesting that Elliot Spitzer, when he got charged with these allegations, he was gone halfway through his term, but this guy, he's still here.
Anthony Weiner with stuff. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, they were going. Spitzer. Yeah, we have selective justice. And that's what's going on here when you see that. But, like we said earlier, the real issue that everybody should be upset about, I need y'all to hit the Cash App again, Gavin Richard Esquire. Hit that Cash App. The real thing we should be upset about is the fact that hundreds of people were murdered. Well, I shouldn't say murdered, excuse me, but died as a result of his incompetence and negligence. Really wasn't even incompetence. This was something deliberate.
So it was all meant to get back at Donald Trump. It's like he was throwing feelings at Trump that he killed people just so that he could make the body count go up higher.
It's just the same thing with Flint, Michigan. How can y'all allow this stuff to go on that you don't have running good quality water? This is something that our leaders are doing this. Reverend Childress, you've got the final say on this.
The brother said he's a mobster, and he's absolutely right. That's why, and unquestionably, he's still there. He is a part of the syndicate. He's a part of the world order, whatever you want to call it. He is very much a part, but he's too independent of them. Okay. Now, this particular thing with the women, could it be a distraction from the nursing home? Then he's just playing this thing out. If they wanted to take him out on this, if the Democrat Party really wanted to take him out on this, you get the Me Too movement going, and media would be even more so on this than what it is. And it's not. It's really not as vibrant as it could be. But what they're leaving alone, if you have noticed, now they got to cover it a little, make it look good, to make people forget about his gross negligence with the nursing homes. Thousands of people died. They got the same thing with Murphy. They got a official nursing home executive called his health director and said, "You just asked us to take in COVID patients. And is that correct?" He said, "But hold on. Do you understand people will die that didn't have to die?" That's on Murphy. I very rarely hear it in the media. They got this thing covered. So Como may survive. I doubt it still. He may survive this. That's the plan, because until you really bring the real offense to the front burner, I mean, Democrat, if this was a Republican, he's gone. If it was any other Democrat, I think he's gone. Also, his brother is selfish. His brother knows if he goes, he's probably next. So he's trying to keep him to get past this. They're not dumb for that to get out that he coached. So you had to coach him. He's not honest about it. He's not forthcoming. You had to coach him. He may not last, I don't know anymore, because like you all have alluded to, he should have been gone, but it's not.
I think so.
He cut a deal.
Rosalind, I agree. I think that these are distractions from the nursing home allegations. Computer Robot says, can Mario, Chris, and Andrew Cuomo be part of an Italian mafia syndicate, even though the Italian mob are not very relevant these days? I don't want to make an allegation and say yes because of legal issues, obviously. I wouldn't say that. I think that I'll put it to you like this. I think they're an influential family at best, a political family, no different than, well, they're not as powerful, obviously as like the Bush or Kennedy of that nature. But I think for that area, they're very influential, given their history. I'd also say Yeah, I think a lot of these are distractions. Somebody, I think, I don't know, I probably shouldn't say this. I'm not going to say it. But I certainly look at this. I look at what's going on. I think that there are forces at work that certainly want to distract us from certain things, real stuff going on, just like a lot of people didn't know about this COVID-19 bill. Some of you didn't read. Most Americans don't read what are in these bills, because when they put a nice title behind it, everybody will go to it. Same thing with the abortion thing. They changed it from abortion to pro-choice, or they say it's a women's right to choose. And when you talk rights are something that we all associate with, which are good, which rights that come from God, rights that come from, and some rights that come from men are good. The right to own property, the right to be free, have a free press, have freedom of speech. Those are great things. We have free will. Those are great things. But they do it in a way, especially when it's to your own detriment. They will deceive you. And we got to be mindful of what's going on with television and so forth, because the actual title of television is television programming. So there's more. That's the actual title of it. What I will say too, I know it's actually past 2 hours. I had something else I think I wanted to talk about. I'm not quite sure if I had it, but I think we covered practically everything. I think Sunday I might do a live stream with you all regards to that comment Rod from What's Happening made about Cosby. I've been on this for a while. Some people have asked me what's going on with the appeal. The appeal process can take a very long time. And back in December, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania actually listened to arguments made by both the state and Cosby's appeal attorneys. And I know there's no set time limit on when they will say anything. I'm praying that he doesn't pass while he's in prison before the appeal comes down, because at least I want there to be a final bookend on this. I certainly think he has a great chance of getting it overturned. The other thing I want y'all to do, I want you to check out Pastor Childress's website, blackgenocide.org. You can watch documentaries and learn about MAFA 21 and the impact abortion has had in America on Black people. In fact, it is the leading cause of death of African Americans, according to the Guttmacher Institute. The other thing you can do is support Brother Bernard and his Cash App, 1919BJ, 1919BJ. I will be, of course, on the Judge Joe Brown show tomorrow. I don't know who the panelists are, but we'll be talking, obviously, about something like this COVID-19 bill. But you guys got to be mindful of the stuff that goes on here. And there are some other distractions, some other things that are happening in this country. Oh, the last thing I did want to talk about, I wanted to mention this, and I was trying to get my dad to stay in here, but he left. It was about Anthony Fauci's comments in regards to vaccination, something very interesting. Now, he didn't say anything about not getting vaccinated, but what he did say was that he did not support, he defended the right not to have forced vaccinations when he was speaking on Chris Cuomo's show. So I'm going to briefly I'm going to play a clip from that, and we could talk about it for a little bit, but and that'll be the last topic, but I don't want to spend too much time on it.
I think it's fair to say that the mask thing is now a mess. A bunch of states lifted the mandate since the CDC said to, because how do you keep them in place when the CDC has said you don't have to, right? People are going to get upset at you. More still have them in, but they're reevaluating. Businesses are doing it all different ways. Some never did it at all, right? So it's just all over the place. Why? Because the guidance has been all over the place. And now what's our big concern? Schools.
He's right about that.
Younger kids won't be vaccinated in the fall. You could argue that they don't really need to be the same way because the case rates are so low. And then they'll say, well, what about the Kawasaki? but there's so few cases of that. Yeah, but kids have died. Yeah, you've had hundreds of kids die, 300, but on what scale? And what does that mean in terms of the price and the systemic inequality and the kids getting left behind and years, precious years and memories lost because of how stinky this school year was? States like Texas, Utah, they want to ban mask mandates in schools. It's clear the CDC did not consult with any of these folks before changing the guidance. Odd, because here's the CDC director on how they make these decisions.
As a matter of practice, the CDC engages with stakeholders, with consumers who take our guidance, who use our guidance before it is finalized so we can understand whether it addresses their needs. For our school guidance, we did that with 50 different stakeholders, over 50.
Didn't happen this time. In fact, we had the CDC director on at night. She said, wait and see, wait and see, wait and see. They changed the guidance the next morning. Odd. My next guest has been asked about, the rules. He's playing cleanup now. Dr. Anthony Fauci, welcome back. It's good to have you, sir. You told Axios people are misinterpreting the CDC mask guidance, but you added it's not their fault. I agree. And not to be kind, but to be accurate. I think it's the administration's fault. I think it's the CDC's fault. What do you think?
Well, I'm not going to place blame on it, but I believe that the source of the confusion, Chris, is the fact that the CDC made the change in guidelines purely to allow people who've been fully vaccinated to realize that the scientific data itself indicates that it is safe for them to go without a mask, not only outdoors, but also indoors. That was meant for those who are fully vaccinated. What happened is that triggered an interpretation that we can now just throw masks away and nobody has to wear masks, which is obviously not the case, because for those who have not been vaccinated, their original guidelines stay exactly the same.
Right. There's just no pressure on them now.
The situation.
Tony, the only problem
right,
is...
exactly.
So go ahead, finish your point, and then I have a question. Go ahead.
No, the point I'm making is that does lead to confusion, Chris. You're absolutely right. And I think the people that are under particular stress are people who own establishments in which, since there's no passports to show you're vaccinated, there's no way to prove that you have or have not been. So what happens if you have an establishment in which there'll be vaccinated people and unvaccinated people? You might have people come in who are infected, who have the risk of infecting someone else. So what the establishment owners, several of them have said, the CDC recommendations were fine, that people who are fully vaccinated don't have to wear masks indoor. But since I don't know who's vaccinated or not, if you come into my establishment, you still have to wear a mask. So where the confusion is that people are saying, wait a minute, some people are saying you don't have to wear masks when you're vaccinated. And now you're telling me when I go into an establishment, I have to wear a mask. And you're right, it is confusing. In fairness to the people who are trying to make heads or tails of that, it can be confusing.
I don't think it's confusing. I think it's simple. If you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. The science is there. Could you be contagious? Yes, but the chances are so low. What about my kids at home? They're going to be fine. If you can get them vaccinated, do it. If you're not vaccinated, nothing has changed, but you will cheat. And the fix here is something that has been studiously avoided by the administration, and I don't know why, except for just basic politics. You have to have a tracking mechanism. You have to have a vaccine passport. Otherwise, this will never work. There is no way to differentiate the vaccine from the unvaccinated. Why do they avoid the passport?
It's a complex reason, I believe, Chris. And one of them is that if you, in fact, require a passport, you're going to be discriminating against people and putting people at a disadvantage of essentially forcing them, in many respects, indirectly to get vaccinated.
Look, it's one thing if you don't give me the chance to get the vaccine. If this is people saying, oh, here's more systemic inequity, but if you make sure the vaccine is available, now everybody gets to make a choice. And why shouldn't I get opportunities as vaccinated that you don't get as unvaccinated?
Right. Chris, you make a reasonable point. What the administration is saying is that they're not going to mandate a passport for vaccines centrally. But you're going to see, I'll guarantee you, that there are going to be organizations, there already are colleges that are saying, if you don't show proof of vaccination, you're not coming on
why
campus.
put it on everybody else?
Face to face.
Why not do it centrally? You guys have the best way to do it. You got the most
don't have
data,
it.
the most manpower.
Chris, I don't have the answer for you, Chris. I don't have the answer for you.
Fauci doesn't have the answer. Fauci doesn't have the answer.
You bet. I don't know.
Holy cow. They call the vaccine the Fauci ouchie. Now you don't have the answer. So look, I know that this is politics, but just look what's happening. New York State's got the Excelsior Pass. Other people have it. You can't expect me to show you proof when I come into some place that have been vaccinated. You know, I really believe that they got mixed up with science and politics here. If you want to preference people who are vaccinated, you got to give us a way to distinguish between those who are and those who aren't.
Yeah. I understand. And you could make a good argument for that, Chris. I'm not arguing with you. But the policy is they don't want to do it centrally. They don't want to have a central dictate that you have to have a passport because they don't want to put people in compromised position. I hear your argument. You're saying, well, then get vaccinated. Period.
I think you compromise it by not having it. But I wanted to ask you one other thing that's in your bailiwick, because I've been hearing a lot about it, and I'll let you go, I promise.
Sure.
I hear that the data on a booster shot, I know now I'm like playing down the reason to get vaccinated, which is not my point. But I hear that the data on booster shots is boffo. It's great. And then if you get a booster shot like 6 months out from a vaccine, you get such multiples of antibodies that literally could be the kill shot against the virus and really give you long-term protection. Is that true?
No.
Well, what's true is that when you get a booster, you increase dramatically the level of antibodies that would be protected. So the question is, will we be getting boosters? It's highly likely that within a reasonable period of time, we're going to wind up requiring booster. And the reason that will trigger it is that when the level of protection starts to dwindle down, as happens over time, or when we start seeing more breakthrough infections, you're going to see boosters. And when you do get a booster, you're absolutely correct. What you're hearing is correct. There's a major increase in the level of antibodies following a booster.
I'll bet you a slice of pizza. You know what problem you're going to have when it's time for people to get the boosters? How are we going to know who got the booster and who didn't? We're going to have a way to track it. Dr. Anthony Fauci, it is not your job to find the solution, but you will have to deal with the fallout. Thank you for being on the show, as always.
Okay. Of course, they have Chris Cuomo. He's always pushing the liberal agenda. Like you said, he's disgusting. I've lost interest in him. Don Lemon's show even got downsized. Don Lemon ain't good. You know how I feel about Don Lemon, Bernard. Let me just say this. I am not a medical expert. My father is, obviously, and he knows about the vaccines and so forth. I'm not going to get up here, and I want my guests to caution themselves as well, because I'm trying not to get banned. We have to be careful when we talk about vaccines. We are not doctors or experts, but I support people's rights if they choose not to get vaccinated. That's their right, although whether I agree with it or not, everybody is different on something. Me personally, I have been like the new PlayStation 5 that comes out for before Christmas, but I choose not to buy it by Christmas because I know they still got all the bugs in it. So I'm waiting months and months and months before they work the bugs out of stuff. So that's how I am kind of with the vax. That's just me. But I know people have Unsunken one said, papers, please, papers. So like they did, with the immigrants and stuff. So Black Mama says her daughter is not going to be participating in her graduation ceremony because she is not vaccinated. We can celebrate at home just fine.
Good for her. Good for you, Black man.
You gentlemen, y'all have stated that you are not going to get the vaccine, but it's interesting what Fauci is saying. He's stating essentially that we are not. I shouldn't say defends right not to get vaccinated, but what he rather said was we don't support forced vaccinations.
That whole thing was propaganda. It was skillfully done. They worked on it. You're trying to present this as the reluctant doctor who does. Fauci wants everybody in the world vaccinated. This is a Bill Gates thing. Well, World Health Organization, CDC, unfortunately, cannot be trusted. I'm not anti-vax. Polio, measles, stuff. Those were reputable people for good causes.
Have you had the flu vaccine before, Reverend?
I don't get the flu. I don't trust. No. Okay. I have not had the flu vaccine. This is 99% curable. Why do I need a vaccine? I am 67 years of age. I had COVID, okay? But I was already on a vitamin regimen. I fought it off. I took the ivermectin. I took the Z-Pack and one other thing. It was small. Okay, and you know something? I didn't think I had it, so I had it for about a week before I got medicated. That was stupid, thinking I'm invincible. But I got treatment a week after I had where I was basically totally fatigued. They said, "What is going on here?" I just thought it was the flu, like you said. But I'm not going to try and scare your audience right now. I'm not a doctor, but I don't have to be a doctor to listen to a doctor and people who are reputable, people who have been locked up over this that tell the truth. This is the New World Order. This is about birth control. It changes your DNA, and it is irrevocable. I mean, you cannot undo it. You cannot take something to make your DNA come back to where it was, unless you got Jesus. That's the only thing. Everyone, Pfizer, J&J, and Moderna all change your DNA. And if you're a young man or a young lady, and now they got it for children, they're so slick. This is about reducing the population. These people want about 500 to 600 million people in the world. They are no joke. I'm telling you, as crazy as it sounds, it is no joke. I have actually developed a heaviness over this ever since I found all these things out. If you go to my blackgenocide.org, I have it on there. I say, don't take the vaccine. If you go to newcalvarydeliverance.org, I have it on there. COVID-19, no, whatever I put. I have it on the urbanprophet.org website, any website. And guess what? I'm going to run for the assembly. And I'm going to be handing out my card, say, please go to my website. I know I have basically slim to no chance of winning, but they're going to find out about the vaccine by me running. And I know I'm going to catch heck over that. I don't need Queen Latifah to come to my town to tell me to take something. I don't need Whoopi Goldberg last week coming down and
Mike Lee.
I mean, come on. I mean, I said, oh, have we lost all our senses? Did you have to do this over polio? Or smallpox? Did you have to do this over that? No, because people are finding out. Man, this is as bad as it gets. There's nothing that's ever happened in this world that is as bad as what's going on now. I'm talking about atomic bombs, Hiroshima and Hamashami, was in Hiroshima and Hamashami, and anything else. There's nothing like this. This is global. Everybody, they're injecting this into, and I don't want to keep talking because I didn't know this was going to be subject matter, but I talk about it with my people every time I address them, at least twice a week, telling them about the information. This is diabolical to the utmost point. So that was just a scam to make it appear a booster shot and all that other stuff. Oh, please.
All right. Well, Bernard, you go and then Shawn.
Let me say something about this. See, once again, Dr. Church, you hit it right on the head. Ivermectin, I use black seed oil, and so forth and so on, but that's okay. That's not the issue. The issue is Fauci is lying through his teeth because, number one, he's telling you that he's not for passports, right? But at the same time, anybody know that the federal government isn't they got private-public partnerships. So they're going to try to get the private agencies to do it. That's why the lady is talking about her daughter not going to be able to go to have a graduation.
Right. Private agencies that are doing this, but that have created the vaccines, but they have been approved emergency use by the FDA. And even if you look and take the vaccines, one of the things they tell you, because even Judge took the vaccine and told us this, they tell you that it is a trial.
It's a test.
They say it.
Yeah.
So that's not a conspiracy theory. Yeah.
But I want to say to the Reverend, what he's saying is on point. But the fact that you see they got Cuomo and Whoopi Goldberg, I didn't know Whoopi Goldberg came there. I mean, really to tell you the truth, it is what it is. But they got even Markel Fultz, NBA player, Whoopi Goldberg. If they are actually telling you we're gonna give you a scratch ticket for $5 million on one state, and maybe $1 million for 5 people. New York, Shake and Shake Burger.
Qualify for a lottery ticket.
Man, look, I teach. I have a nutrition stick, and I'm a personal trainer, Gavin. I'm like, yo, wait a minute. Why are you giving me deaf food anyway to this garbage? What the hell is going on? And I'm listening to them. They talk about, oh, we go to get a Krispy Kreme. Why are we even eating this stuff anyway? But the bottom of the matter is, I'm looking at it in a context, man, that he set up there and told you, but Fauci just a couple weeks ago, and this is one thing I want to tell you, 40 to 50% of his NIH employees have not got it. Correctional officers all over the country are not taking it. Police officers are not taking it. So
military is not taking it. They're not making it a requirement. It's very
high percentages of the military are not taking it. You're absolutely right. And I tell you, these are the last days. That's all I can say. This is just crazy. I don't want this stuff to be true. These nanotech things that are going in you, they can track you after a while. It can speak to you. It's on Wi-Fi. I said, get out of here. Judy Mikovits went to jail. That man, Fauci, locked her up, made one call and said she's going to be a problem to this thing. Locked her up. No court, no nothing. And she's telling her testimony now. A highly decorated doctor and other doctors.
And she was on the Nation of Islam Savior's Day as well, talking. She spoke that day, her and Robert F. Kennedy, yes. But we just have to be aware of what Fauci is. Well, Cuomo's not a double. Well, he's not. Fauci is a double talker. Okay, Rand Paul had him on the stand. He got to cross him up. But he Fauci's a double talker.
Well, Rand Paul's a doctor, so he couldn't double talk Rand Paul. Rand Paul,
and you got to watch Cuomo too.
If anybody ever took a whooping in Congress, Fauci took a whooping from Rand Paul, and
you got to watch Cuomo too.
If the people do not rebel, and you rebel peacefully, if the people do not rebel on this one, they're trying to see how far they can go, and what you're going to comply to. This is Big Brother if I've ever seen it. I never thought I'd see anything like this in this country. But it is here. And they're not even telling you the people who are dying from it because it's a test. They're not telling you all the people who had blood clots. Do you know by law, they only have to tell you 10%? So if 100 people die, they have, by law, they're able to just tell you 10% in a survey or a grant. So when you ask for the reports, 10% have died, when it actually was 100. They only have to report 10%. It's crazy. We've been set up since 1986. You could not sue them. Okay, and this is all in the world game plan. I'm shocked. I'm really, I'll send you, Brother Galvin. I'll send you 2 things you need to watch. The other one's on my website, but it doesn't go as deep as this one I got this week from a military doctor. This week, okay, and I can't give his name.
Well.
Set it up here.
Well, I just want to say one other thing about Cuomo, and I'm going to let Shawn go in, because in the state of Gavin Newsom and Cuomo are 2 of the most repressive governors of all time. And matter of fact, I think with the Lakers game and the Knicks games, you have to, I think even Brooklyn, you have to get like a COVID test, or you got to have like a QR code from your phone to show you back. They're actually rolling this technology out. Negative COVID test 72 hours for the game in California. I do know that. So you just watch your back, because these demons got all types of stuff. But listen to Fauci, you just listen to somebody who really speaks flat. And all you gotta do is cross him and he'll buckle.
Well, when it comes down to things, I see the same double talk that went on during the whole thing with the CDC with the Trump presidency. And when Donald Trump called it out, everybody called him a bad guy. But here we see it once again. I mean, if you're saying that you're going to protect the rights of people to not take this vaccine, then there's something really wrong here. Now, what I find to be interesting is that if this vaccine was so good, then why doesn't it get FDA approval? Why are we still on the experimental stage? I mean, if it was so good, you would give it FDA approval, and then you wouldn't have any problems after that. But the whole thing is, you've got half the country taking this thing, and they're taking it thinking that it's a vaccine, but it's an experiment. And that's the whole thing that's a lot of people aren't really paying attention to, is that they're in one big, not only medical experiment, but they're also part of a social experiment, as everybody has stated, to see how far people could go to manipulate people. Now, this whole thing with the vaccine passport, this is another attempt at social engineering, but I think it's going to backfire, because if people decide not to participate in the economy, then you're going to have some serious problems. And I think what's really happening now is that these guys have actually painted themselves in a corner. Your Fauci and all of them have painted themselves into a corner, because the economy is not really going the way people want it to go. And they know if they continue to press to try to get these numbers as related to this so-called herd immunity, or as I see it, social engineering, they're going to push too far, and then the whole thing is going to fall completely apart. So they're trying to wean people back into the economy, and they know if they push too far, they're going to wind up with themselves with another January 6th going on, because if you try to force people, that's when they're going to lose it. And that's when we're going to see the whole thing just crumble right before our very eyes. So when I look at this whole situation, I'm really seeing how everything is just falling off the rails in some ways. And your Fauci, he's never been consistent. And only Rand Paul called him on his inconsistency. But I could see where he was inconsistent even during the Trump presidency, constantly flipping and flopping. Same thing with the CDC, constantly flipping and flopping. I mean, one day masks are good, next day masks are bad. One day you can take the mask off, next day you can't take the mask off. And people are going to lie. But no, the whole thing is, if the people don't, if we have, like in Florida and Texas, they dropped the mask mandate, and you had a lot of people who didn't take the vaccine, and they're fine. So why can't we do it for the rest of the country? That's the critical question. People aren't asking about this whole sham, but most people aren't asking because they're caught up in their feelings about these guys and their mental manipulations to call them on their BS, because every time you try to confront them, a whole bunch of other people jump up in front of them instead of holding them accountable. And that allows them to continue moving the goalpost and playing games with people. But I'm thinking that there are some rich people at the top who are really getting frustrated about this game, because they're seeing all this money they're getting to lose. And if they have another bad summer, which is one of the big business seasons, they don't want to lose another summer, and they don't want to lose another holiday season. So that's why we're seeing them try to dance their way out of this whole vaccine thing, because they know if they continue to push things like vaccine passports and all this other foolishness, they're going to lose a lot of money, because people don't support medical fascism, and they don't support businesses that promote medical fascism. And that's a lot of money to be left on the table. And that's something a lot of these companies don't want to lose, is a lot of money. So they're trying to find their way to dance their way out of this whole situation by eventually, I think in a couple months, they'll be talking about, unvaccinated people can take the mask off, and unvaccinated and vaccinated people can go out here and go and mingle. And eventually, I believe they're going to do that, because there's too much money on the table, and many of these wealthy people don't want to lose that money on the table.
Yeah. I'll say this in closing. Again, while we're not doctors and I can't advise, I'll say again, we can't advise medical advice, but think and choose wisely, is what I would say. You know, I have taken vaccines before, like the flu shot myself. I've been vaccinated before, polio, smallpox, things of that nature. They're required in schools. Now, in other schools, some are requiring this thing with the COVID vax, others are not. Florida, as Shawn has pointed out, they've outright stated they're not supporting forced vaccinations. They actually stopped the university from doing it. They issued a law and mandate telling them do not do this. They've lifted their mask mandates. So just choose wisely, guys, especially what you're going to do. Black Mama, let her have the last comment. She says, if my school district requires us to be vaccinated, I won't work there. I'm kind of thick, y'all. I can make money with show us. Yeah. Show us, Black Mama. Yes, say, I'm steering my eldest siblings away from the vax, Rosalind says. Bernard just texted me. Yeah, they have a Lego diversity. It's all in rainbows. I know what they mean.
Another get woke, go broke product.
Yeah. Like I said, the Proud family, louder and prouder. There's a message behind that. All right.
Hey,
well,
next month is Pride Month. Get ready.
Right. Watch for the Equality Act in the Senate.
Oh, Brother Galvin, are you near Lake Charles?
I'm in New Orleans.
Isn't there Louisiana, right?
Yeah. New Orleans.
Lake Charles is anywhere around there, or St.
Lake Charles is in southwest Louisiana. It's right next to Texas.
I just forgot my good priest friend, Father Raphael. He was a teacher there in Lake Charles. And I said, maybe you knew of him. He's now back up north because it was over paddling that I think he got kind of trouble about. But Father Raphael, great man of God, as far as I'm concerned. Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Yeah, Lake Charles is about 2 hours, roughly 3 hours from here. So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess I'll play this right quick. I know we got to run because it's getting late. But I just want to show what Bernard had just sent me. But yeah, man, this stuff is real.
By the company. Instead, Lego says the figures are meant to express rainbow edition of its iconic toy just in time for Pride Month. They're calling the set Everyone is Awesome. It'll feature 11 monochromatic, non-gendered figurines that form a rainbow when brought together. People in the set don't come with faces or clothes painted on them, and they aren't being assigned genders by the company. Instead, Lego says the figures are meant to express individuality while remaining ambiguous.
So can I be a rich white man? A rich white somebody, I guess. I don't have to be a man or woman. I could just be it.
I don't know where it's going to go.
All right. This is getting out of hand.
Boycott Legos. Boycott Legos. Hey, boycott Kellogg's.
Kellogg's is going to fill your mouth with pride. Yeah, they have that cereal. I'll stick to oatmeal. Or grits. Let's see. I need y'all to please hit that Cash App at the bottom, Gavin Richard Esquire. We're gonna get out of here, but support Brother Bernard at his Cash App 1919 BJ. Also, you can support Reverend Clenard Childress at blackgenocide.org. You should check out that website, blackgenocide.org. And what you can do, Pastor, is share with us too your article, the link to your article that was published in, you said the Washington Post?
Washington Times.
Washington Times. Share that.
Are you woke the black genocide? That's the title. Are you woke the black genocide? I'm so slow at putting things up. I'm going to get it up before Friday.
All right. And buy Shawn's latest book, John Haynes Taking Care of Business, on Amazon. Shawn has a live stream he's going to be doing tomorrow. What's the live stream about tomorrow?
It's going to be about how Hollywood has sold Black Hollywood has sold America out. So I'm going to be talking about how Black Hollywood no longer is expressing any interest in helping or serving the Black community, and how your Black Hollywood has walked away from the culture and values of the Black community.
Right. So big, good commentary. He also has a video that's dropping tonight about the eviction moratoriums that are being lifted now.
Yeah, that's coming in 15 minutes.
How the homeless problem could actually increase as a result of that. And that's very interesting. That's a good topic. But y'all tune in Sunday. I'm going to do another live stream. I'm going to have some stuff to talk about. But whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you're blessed and do it safe. You guys, please, as you get out of here, I need you to hit that Cash App. Please hit that Cash App, Gavin Richard, Esquire. Black Mom, I appreciate it. Love for you always coming through. Hadn't seen her in a while. Butterfly 70, Rosalind, of course, Derek Bailey, Computer Robots, Frank Jones. He's a new subscriber. He's on my other YouTube channel. Shout out to him. Thank you, brother, for tuning in. Lamiko, I'm just mentioning everybody. Unsung one. I can't say everyone because I would take up more time, but Computer Robots, Vulcan 205, all of y'all, thankful. And you guys will see Dad again in the near future and that'll be cool.
You take your time, brother.
All right, Bernard, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been it for me. There's been another edition of Gavin Richard Presents here on channel GBoot 2786. Please, again, donate to the Cash App, Gavin Richard, Esquire, Google Pay, gavin.grich1@gmail.com, and PayPal at gavin.grich1@gmail.com. Gentlemen, thank y'all for a great night. I appreciate you being here with me for almost 3 hours, but we'll wrap up. This is another Godfather movie. All right, on Lord of the Rings.
Okay, God bless you.
All right, everyone.
All right, you have a good evening.
You too.